Yo. Today's video is part of a larger retrospective series by me about thatguywiththeglasses.com or Channel Awesome. You don't need to have seen the other parts to know exactly what's going on in this video, since they are also all technically self-contained, but if you want to see those videos as well and be kept up to date with what's going on with this retrospective, then be sure to subscribe and check out the link to the full playlist of everything in this series down below. That being said, today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular and infamous content creators from Channel Awesome. A man who, admittingly, has been covered by quite a few other people in the past, as his rise and fall has become something many just couldn't help but gawk at. And so we'll be taking a look at his storied past and coming to understand what made him so popular to begin with, as well as look at it all in perspective, both the historic rise and the unbelievable fall. Today we'll be looking at the story of Noah Antwiler, otherwise known as the Spoonyone. But first, this video is sponsored by Polybuzz, a free AI character chatbot that allows you to chat and roleplay with various characters from both established series from anime and video games, as well as your very own characters that you can create and chat with and share with others to chat with too. Heck, you can even chat with characters like the Nostalgia Critic. Hello, I'm a Nostalgia Critic, and I remember it so you don't have to. If you hate bad movies as much as I do, then we'll be friends. I love to chastise, humiliate, and insult characters in films that I don't like, but in a fun way. I love to joke on any topic. Wow, that's pretty cool. What an honor. Hey, how come you don't have hair anymore, Critic? The Nostalgia Critic touches his bald head with a theatrical gesture, his face showing exaggerated distress. Ah, the great hair mystery. Well, I've been battling the forces of mediocre cinema for so long that my follicles simply surrender to the stress. Every bad movie I review takes another strand of my precious locks. He dramatically pulls at his collar, pretending to sweat. At least I can still wear cool hats and wigs for my shows. Plus, it makes me more memorable, right? Like that classic horror villain, bald and full of rage. So yeah, if you want to have funny or interesting interactions like this one, or maybe you want to be more sensual with the critic, then you can click the link down in the description. And if you use my promo code, Dylan8, you can get access to Poly Premium for more features when chatting with various characters. Download the Polybuzz app today and unleash your creativity. And now, on with the show. So, we finally get to one of the other most prominent members of the thatguywiththeglasses.com crew, one who has certainly already showed up enough throughout our look into Linkara's work. Spoony, real name Noah Antwiler, was born on the 27th of December 1980 in St. Louis, Missouri, and it was Arizona State University where Noah Antwiler would gain his bachelor degree of science. However, Noah found that landing a job for his degree was rather difficult, and so he would turn to his passions for possible work, that being film, video games, and good old-fashioned nerd shit. For 3 years, he wrote movie reviews reviews for a magazine specializing in bad horror films, while at the same time he would also create his very own website, that being called thespoonyexperiment.com. It's here he would begin writing articles about bad movies, as well as posting videos where he rants about bad video games, not unlike that of the Angry Video Game Nerd, though in the beginning they were notable in that they were unscripted. But we'll talk in more detail about them shortly. By this time, Noah would also start referring to himself as Spoony, or the spoonyone, in connection to his website, and because it was a nickname he used while playing tabletop RPGs with his friends, and is a reference to the quote, "You Spoony Bard," from the US version of Final Fantasy IV. All this and more is detailed in the About Me section of Spoony's website. Quote, Noah Antwiler as Tandem the Spoony. Noah is the terrifying result of a generation raised on MTV and films by Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal at the height of their popularity. Writer, director, editor, and star of the Spoony Experiment, Noah shares a love for the three things author Neil Stephenson writes are the things America does better than anyone else: music, movies, and microcode. He created the experiment as a homage to the Mystery Science Theater 3000, the first show to scream back at the culture that raised him. He's been a published poet in Seattle and has acted in community productions of Grease, Our Town, Dags, Baby, The Importance of Being Earnest, and Interview with the Vampire. Most recently, he has appeared in the ASU mainstage production of Stolen Children as Father Mandan. Noah initially began on the internet writing comedic movie reviews called Tandem's Movie Rants, which are film critiques, live movie recaps, or essays on recent trends in film or TV. With a viewpoint always controversial, Noah's rants are usually critical of both mainstream popular media culture and the detail-obsessive fanboy community. Over the years, these rants have evolved in form in the hopes of being entertaining, but also to elevate moviegoer expectations. Thanks to the creative input and support, and a fair amount of harsh derision from some of the Ken Zerko forumites, Noah has come to this new media to give back as much of the entertainment as possible that Mystery Science Theater 3000 gave him. Now, he currently writes the Gamer's Rant on the movie columns of Knights of the Dinner Table magazine, a national monthly gamer magazine available at all the fine friendly local game stores. Unquote. He also notes in this About Me section that beyond just the title of Spoony coming from Final Fantasy IV, the context of the quote also matters to Spoony, as well as the general vibe that he's trying to create. And he notes that to be spoony, or to have spooniness, indicates a devil-may-care, swashbuckling spirit, where all men are equal and free, and should be generally nice to each other, and embrace wine, women, and song. This info dump manages, I think, to really get across Spoony's background and various forms of inspirations he would come to use in his videos. And in particular, I think his background in theater is actually rather important. It's a detail I don't think enough people bring up about Spoony. And I think it, along with his ability to sort of go off the cuff and tell interesting stories with Dungeons and Dragons sessions, in tandem perhaps explain why Spoony seems to have such a strong screen presence. And something else I thought I would note now is Spoony didn't just make videos and write articles during this time. He also wrote fanfiction, in particular Highlander fanfiction, which sadly, in the Wayback Machine for the spoonyexperiment.com, doesn't seem to be easily accessible. If anyone has these or knows where I can read them, please be sure to let me know. Regardless though, Spoony also had ambitions of becoming a filmmaker. In fact, in 2005, Spoony was originally planning on making an original film, and got some ways into it. And mind you, this would have been before he ended up making videos on YouTube. But back on his blog, he made several posts about the film and its progress, with the film's title tentatively being known as FLGS. However, while this project would occasionally be referenced in some of Spoony's older videos, it would ultimately end up being put on the back burner before then completely being shelved, as Spoony would become dedicated to his work as a video content creator dude. But let this first spark of ambition that crumbled slowly over time be noted as we trudge forward through this tale. Which, speaking of, I think it's probably about time we actually start talking about what he's most well known for, his game reviews. Uploaded on January 24th, 2007, Noah would create his first ever YouTube video entitled Adventures of Bayou Billy, NES Review, Part 1, in which he, well, reviewed Bayou Billy, starting out on this note to the audience.
Now, I know there's a lot of guys out there doing video game reviews, like the Angry Video Game Nerd and RMake21. I love those guys to death, and I'm not necessarily trying to steal their thunder. What I am trying to do, however, is to share with you one particular game that forever darkened my childhood and probably contributed a great deal to making me the psychological mess that I am today. It's not the shittiest game in the world, although it is shittier than a Mormon prom. But what it is the most nipple-twisting, nut-aching, hair-pulling, ulcer-causing, butt-itching, frustrating motherfucker of a game you ever saw. And that game is The Adventures of Bayou Billy.
Which I think pretty well sets the tone. Spoony here is reviewing games from his childhood that made him the way he is now. And though he may be similar to AVGN, he's just trying to do his own thing. And his own thing he indeed did do. This review in particular comes off more as someone's off-the-cuff responses, sort of like a Let's Play or highlights of a Let's Play. You can sort of tell that some or even most of the video is unscripted, and yet there is an interesting bit of personality in there.
So, you'll notice right away that Billy is a fucking pussy. He's got two attacks, a punch and a kick. Oh my god, make it stop. It's the music. This is so funkadelic. Anyway, Billy's got two attacks, a punch and a kick. The punch being a short-range attack that doesn't hurt, and a kick, which is a slightly longer-range attack that doesn't hurt. He's got a drop kick, too. You'll end up using the drop kick a lot.
Now, I remember Bayou Billy being really big as a kid, and playing this game, I'll be damned if I can remember why. All I do remember is that A, it had a bitchin' soundtrack, and B, there was this huge marketing campaign behind it put up by Nintendo or Konami or whatever company made it, starring some kind of Crocodile Dundee Cajun motherfucker who was always all manic and wrestling alligators.
When'd you get your hands on Konami's new video game? Starring me, that raging character, Bayou Billy. For the first time ever, Konami combines hand-to-hand combat with driving, shooting, and of course zapping in one swamp stomping adventure.
And that is, once you get to the second level, you realize why it tells you to use the controller in the first stage if you picked Game A. And that's because in the second stage you get to crack out Nintendo's most underused peripheral. I had to dust this out of a drawer somewhere. The Zapper.
Something that would be showcased more as he continued with his reviews. From his D&D Heroes of the Lance review,
I am thy dungeon master, and today we return to the game of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We will now enter into a land of sword and sorcery, of maidens and monsters, of orcs and buggery. Yes, today we enter the realm of Kryn.
So, you enter this dungeon, and the entire dungeon is this monochromatic black and white crap fest. You enter this chamber with this huge gorge on your right. I don't know the controls, because they're so broken. You're like, there's a jump button, but to jump, you have to be running in the direction you want to jump, and you have to be holding up, then push the jump button to get a running leap. See, now couldn't do that. Now Riceland, maybe he has a shot. Hey, he flowed. I guess not. I guess I got 3 guys dead, 4 guys dead. I can't jump. Taz, I got him to jump, and oh, this is so terrible. I mean, look at the bottom half of the screen, dominated by a bunch of character portraits you don't give a crap about. And I don't even know why you're able to see all of these guys and their health bars. You're only running one guy at a time. Yeah, no experience points for anybody. F you. So, by the way, the way you get out of there, you just go up through the door. I thought that was the door you just came in. I didn't know you were supposed to go through that. Now, this is what the meat of the game, the combat. Check this out. There's no hit detection. It's totally broken. I just got killed by a rock trap that just wiped out my cleric, but it didn't affect the bad guy at all. This is just intolerable, and the music never changes. Oh, but the background has added a color. It's added puke green.
To his Robin Hood Prince of Thieves review.
You remember Robin Hood? I remember Robin Hood, and I'm not talking about that gay Errol Flynn Robin Hood. No, I'm talking about the gritty, realistic Robin Hood, where Dances with Wolves, Robin of Locksley, teams up with Driving Miss Daisy to fight the evil Sheriff of Nottingham, Hans Gruber. Right. I mean, people may bitch and moan about how they didn't like how the new Kevin Costner movie came out, but let me tell you something. It dispensed with everything that dragged Robin Hood down over the years, like humor, swashbuckling, adventure, British accents, and Prince John, alright? You know, it was the greatest movie ever made. I'll tell you what, it gets even better. You know why? Because they made a video game out of it. Let's watch.
Spoony was, if nothing else, reviewing classic old games like many others did, but he was also covering ones that no one else had done at that time either, and in some cases, still really haven't covered very well. Something that I find particularly interesting about Spoony's tastes and interests is that he really had a different childhood set of games he enjoyed than, well, me or many others that do game reviews, frankly. While many who end up doing game reviews from then to now oftentimes will grow up with very similar batches of games, from Super Mario to Sonic, Legend of Zelda, etc. And nowadays I suppose it would be a lot more stuff like Minecraft, Five Nights at Freddy's, and, well, probably still Mario and Sonic. Spoony was a lot more of a PC gamer, and while his perspective is not totally unknown, there are several really good content creators even now that do cover some stuff like this. Spoony was definitely one of the first to do this, though, and give this perspective, with one major example being one of the major games that was an influence on his life and tastes was the Ultima series, a series of RPG games for the PC that I admittingly know very little about besides what's showcased in Spoony's own reviews of them, and some other basic info. And really, the main reason I note this is because it's one of the major draws for me to Spoony's videos. Because Spoony's videos, as much as they are a man ranting about a game he grew up with and hates, they are also just as much kind of him showing you this weird, cool, or obscure shit, like in the case of his various FMV Hell videos, where he covers Sega CD games as well as PC games that had FMV or full motion video cutscenes, or they were even full motion entire video games at some cases. Like in the case of his review of Microcosm, a game with 4 fucking chapters of lore in its instruction manual, this big fucking box and production value that goes into its packaging, all for a basic ass game where you control a guy killing enemies inside another guy's brain or whatever. It's really truly bizarre, but also very entertaining to see Spoony rip apart, and generally riff on.
I played this game and it forever tainted my soul. It's called Microcosm, and this game really marked a turning point in my life where I, for the first time, realized the power of marketing, and I stopped believing all of that, that corporate bullshit, and I became this cynical, bitter bastard who doesn't believe in anything anymore. I mean, this game held my inner child down and buried it in diarrhea until it drowned on liquid bullshit.
Why? Because it's actually a piece of marketing genius. They pulled out all the stops, played every trick they knew, and even invented a few new ones to make this steaming lump of shit look like a hot fudge sundae. Check out this box. I've never seen a box like this before or since Microcosm. It looks like some kind of square donut with a jewel case wedged in the middle. Why? I don't know. Let's check it out. Okay, let's see. Microcosm. 2. A new era in gaming. 3. The ultimate CD-ROM action game. Well, hot damn, it's the ultimate game. Tell me more. Over 500 megabytes of gameplay, graphics, and sound data. Cinematic presentation of photorealistic images and full-motion video sequences rendered using state-of-the-art graphic workstations. challenging fast and furious gameplay, genuine interaction with rendered backdrops, and a digital audio soundtrack by the rock legend Rick Wakeman, making Microcosm a feast for your ears as well as your eyes. Is it a movie packed with furiously addictive gameplay, or a game with visuals to match anything Hollywood can produce? It's a movie and a game! Wow! This game sounds fucking amazing! And it includes a special CD audio disc and an exclusive edition t-shirt. If it comes to the t-shirt, it has to rock! Let's play! How in the hell do you get the game out of here? God. Man. Oh, you can just pull this inner lid up. I didn't think of that. Oh well. Let's see. Where's the instructions? Oh, you have to open the bottom up too. But look at this! The instructions are all folded into this U shape to wedge it into this ugly donut box. And this is how it came shipped too. Sitting in my closet for 14 years hasn't helped things either. Fuck! I'm not reading this. They went to all this trouble to wedge this stuff into a box that doesn't fit on a shelf and can't actually store anything unless you roll it into a fucking tube. Just use a normal box! Even the soundtrack disc is a total fucking ripoff. You'd think it would actually contain music from the game, performed by rock legend Rick Wakeman, right? Wrong. Instead it contains just a bunch of stupid theme music from other Psygnosis games, like Shadow of the Beast 2, Pugsy Pyramids, and Lemmings 2. Now who the fuck is gonna pop a CD in and listen to the fucking theme song from Lemmings 2?
There's a real value in his videos from that perspective, and again, it reminds me a lot of my experience watching AVGN as a kid, seeing a guy passionately and comically berate a game or something from his childhood that I've never even heard of before. But because they care so much and want to share it with you, it becomes almost infectious. I think this really is the secret ingredient to why so many old angry reviews and rants were so popular back in the day, and sometimes even still are. I think it's because we're so often drawn to passion. There is almost a strange catharsis within it, but also it's interesting to not only learn about something new, but also hear why you probably have never heard of it either. And there's something just personal about it at some point too, if it's something this person grew up with and only finally has the means to properly complain about through the power of the internet.
Oh, wow! Nothing's going on! How thrilling!
You, make sure Sector 4 is clear.
Do something! Well, that's not the entire story. Oh, there's more on the next page. And the next. And the next. In fact, there's 20 pages of story in 4 chapters of text. Not only that, the book is a 4-page appendix detailing the entire solar system and all the planets and moons within it. Kalinor, Ego Nagia, Quiggin? Do they really expect people to read all this? Does it contribute anything to anything? How do I play the fucking game? Okay, well, Microcosm is essentially the stage in Rebel Assault where you crash into the walls constantly, repeated over and over and over again. All you are is a jagged 2D sprite against a scrolling FMV, and you're riding one long rail through the entire game. The graphics are for shit, which is par for the course on the Sega CD, but I certainly wouldn't call this unparalleled cinematic imagery and brilliant SGI graphics. I don't even know what SGI is, and I can't tell what anything in this game is. I presume you're fighting robots, but what's this? What's this? What the fuck is this? Is that a jellyfish? A red blood cell with a laser gun? What? Bright yellow syringes? Aliens? Asteroids? Olives? Cheeseburgers with lasers? Jesus shit! How much did they inject this guy with anyway? And the game is fucking impossible, too. You can't see where you're shooting because you're looking at your ship dead on from the back, and it obscures where your shots are going because the shots are going straight forward. That means when you're lined up with an enemy, you're blocking your own view of that enemy. You can't see if you're hitting it, you can't see if it's shooting at you, and you can't tell if you've killed it.
This too applies towards a series that would come to launch Spoony's channel into becoming legendary, something worthy of joining thatguywiththeglasses.com shortly afterward, that being his Final Fantasy VIII multi-part review.
It was one of those type of games where you either loved it or you hated it, and if you ask me, it didn't even really start getting bad till Final Fantasy X. But this one was where it all started going wrong. It seems like they wanted to change everything from the last Final Fantasy game. The characters, the look, the feel, the sound, even the focus. They decided to change the plot completely into one based more around a central love story than any kind of plot that centers around saving the world. I mean, see if you can even spot what's going on here from the subtitles. These really weird cryptic subtitles that appear all over these Japanese games, and I can't imagine they make much more sense in Japanese than they do in English. But I always like the air quotes, and I'll be waiting here. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. But if there's one thing Square does well, it's making really awesome trailers that overhype the shit out of the game for fanboys who will buy anything Square puts out and consider it a masterpiece. I even met one jagoff at a convention who thought Air Gaze and The Bouncer were really good games. Anyway, there's no real point in trying to piece together what the fuck is going on with the plot, because this video makes absolutely no sense. As far as you can tell, there's some queen chick with huge boobs who has real trouble getting through doors because of the big thing mounted on her back. And these two are trying to work out their unresolved homosexual issues by sissy fighting with two of the stupidest weapons in history. There can be only one. Ha! Pull my finger. Now you might think there's something epic going on here, like there's some kind of world-shattering event that warrants this duel because of all the Carmina Burana music with the God chorus and the But no, these guys are really just sissy fighting in training. I'm serious. They're just sparring. And from here he moves on to play a card battle game. Facepalm, baby. Ooh. Owned. I'm gonna harm you. For those of you who can't speak Latin, the chorus is saying, real gay, sissy gay, 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 sissy gay, gay, butt sex, astroglide, glory hole, balls, teabag, strong. Okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna harp on the gay thing. I was just fucking around.
The first part being released on April 4th, 2007, and the last part, Part 11, being released on July 17th, 2009, this review spans nearly 3 hours in length, which admittingly these days is kind of standard for a video going into super detail about a game or whatever. But back in 2007 and 9, this kind of review in this length was damn near unheard of. I think it was this alone that sort of made Spoony stand out, even if it took a long time to finish the review. This feat alone was crazy at the time. There was also the fact that while Final Fantasy is still quite popular these days, back when this video would have came out, Final Fantasy was sort of considered one of the highest peaks of gaming as far as storytelling and the like goes for RPGs. They were very well respected titles, and if you're not quite getting what I mean by that, Final Fantasy and Squaresoft was to the 90s and 2000s what Dark Souls and FromSoft games are to now. These landmark titles that everyone had to have an opinion on, and that sort of dominated the conversations when new entries would arrive. All this to say, Spoony was punching at one hell of a popular franchise, and one that no one had really tried to review through video format before, at least not so extensively. Partly due to be frank, video content creation in general still being extremely new, so no one had really had the chance up till that point, but also because I'm sure no one really saw reviewing an entire JRPG as very feasible when on YouTube there was literally a 10-minute limit on how long a video could be in the first place. This does explain why Spoony's reviews started immediately getting more attention, especially because Final Fantasy VIII was, well, to compare it to Dark Souls once more, sorry I keep doing that, if Final Fantasy VII was Dark Souls, then it then follows that Final Fantasy VIII was Dark Souls 2. It's not a one-to-one comparison, mind you, but Final Fantasy VIII was a game that was seen as rather controversial at the time, with there being both die-hard fans and die-hard haters that I remember back in the day arguing a hell of a lot whether the game was in fact gem or coal, with Spoony's video series being firmly placed in the Final Fantasy VIII is coal mindset, and he takes pretty much every opportunity to rip it apart that he can.
You gotta name your GF, which is kind of like your Espers. I don't like the name they give me, and so they give you a lot bigger one. This kind of looks like an ass pickle to me, so I'm gonna name it that, and no, Shiva won't do. I guess Miss Bukaki will do. And, you know, this is where I really started taking issue with the game, because after you do this, Quistis starts
giving you tutorials on every single thing in the game, and it's so involved. They changed everything from the ground up, and they made it so needlessly abstract and complicated that this is just the beginning of it. You have to link your magic to your given attributes, and the different kinds of magic you link to your different attributes increase them in different ways. But not only that, you can link your magic to everything else. Not just your attributes, but your various items, your attack, your defense, your luck, everything. But not only that, it matters what quantity of each magic you have. You're not given magic. You have to draw it. And I'll have a lot more on that later. But you can stock up to 100 magic types, and you have to bind them to your attributes. So basically you want a full load every time of every magic spell conceivable. And if you want magic, you have to draw it from your enemies, which is a combat action. And to do that, you do nothing but draw, basically meaning if you want magic, you have to do this for every spell, for every enemy you meet, and to do that, you have to do nothing but let the enemy mercilessly wail on you while you draw hundreds upon hundreds of magic spells, just so you can be competitive in combat and cast the magic you want to cast. You will spend so many untold hours doing nothing but drawing magic and getting yourself abused that'll drive you batshit insane. I just want to fight!
I sound like such a fucking retard when I have to bitch about the Gunblade, and you know why? It's because it's idiots who like Final Fantasy VIII and idiots who defend this thing. I mean, do I even really need to explain to you in how many ways the Gunblade is stupid? You can't tell? I mean, I get the concept. I really do. I mean, really big swords are cool. Guns are cool. But when you mix them both together, you're not always going to get Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, you know what I'm saying? I mean, what the fuck is it? It's a 4-foot sword, duct tape onto a fucking pistol grip. What the hell does it do? If you swing something this heavy, with such an inappropriate grip, all you gotta do is break your fucking wrist. I mean, does it have ammo? Do you need to reload it? What does the ammo do? What actually happens when you pull the trigger? Does a sword hurt more when you load it with bullets? I just don't get it. And here it comes. The cries of the fanboys. Oh, you're bringing up realism in a Final Fantasy game. Well, yeah, I am in this case. I mean, not only does the Gunblade look stupid, but Final Fantasy VIII marked a transitional point in the series. I mean, you could argue that I liked Final Fantasy VII, and the hero there had a 6-foot Buster Sword that was bigger than him and probably weighed upward of 200 pounds. Did I have a problem with that? Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, but with Final Fantasy VIII, the game's changed to a more realistic look. They actually looked like people and not super deformed anime characters. Was it really so out of line to expect them to have more realistic weapons? I mean, everyone else does. And is this the chosen weapon of an entire class of soldiers? I mean, somebody really just miscalculated the coolness factor of the Gunblade. I mean, I could combine random shit too and come up with better stuff than that. I mean, like, the Sharkzooka.
All the Gunblade does is add a timing puzzle to the fucking game, and I hate timing puzzles! I mean, it's the future. You're a soldier. Get a gun! Why do you need a sword?
You see, I may have given you guys the wrong impression when it comes to Final Fantasy VIII. You know, maybe you thought I was just picking on the characters of the story, and maybe it's really not that bad. Noah's just having a good time tearing down a little fanboy legacy. You know what? That's not what it's about. Final Fantasy VIII, to me, is about one thing and one thing only. Pain!
Pockets. Anyway, Seifer is jealous of Zell's horrible aching man crush on you, and really knows how to push Zell's buttons. Oh yeah, I think Zell has ADHD. Check out this total verbal ownage, chicken wuss. Oh no, he didn't! You just got burned! That's your villain for this game, Seifer, the man with the insults of a 7-year-old. Yeah!
So, where was I? Oh yeah. Final Fantasy VIII sucks, and you suck for liking it. It's a poorly written, badly designed piece of shit with annoying as fuck characters, a pointless card-collecting minigame, and the most needlessly complicated and micromanaged character management system ever devised for any game. It's full of ridiculous metagame concepts, boring level-grinding activities, and tedious magic collection busywork. The plot makes no sense, the weapons are ridiculous, and the setting is strangely underpopulated and technologically wildly anachronistic. It's long, boring, it's stupid, and I hate it with the fiery intensity of a million Foreman grills.
Of course, I cannot deny the fact that, to be honest, I don't think Final Fantasy VIII was quite as hated or mocked as much as it was until Spoony's review of it got so popular. In the same way that Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critic series and James Rolfe's AVGN series were both some of the first to cover a lot of these topics and were so very popular, oftentimes this would have the result of said things that they were covering being kind of blindly loved or hated depending on what their opinions were. And if I'm gonna be real, this exact same sort of mindset, shall we call it, is still prevalent to this day, sadly. Now, truth be told, I quite like Final Fantasy as a series, and I also quite like Final Fantasy VIII, so you can understand why for years I sort of saw these videos as rather bad, because he eventually goes beyond talking about just Final Fantasy VIII and into Final Fantasy as a series, including Final Fantasy VII and the original Final Fantasy I. It even takes pot shots at anyone who are fans of the game series in general, anyone who cosplays them, anyone who makes art of them, and likes anime in general.
Oh, hi, sorry about that, I have a bit of a headache. Welcome to my first in a long-running series, I hope, of Final Fantasy games. Right now I'm here to talk to you about, Final Fantasy VII. You see, Final Fantasy VII is actually a pretty good game, especially for its time, but I'm gonna tear it a new asshole anyway. Why? Well, for one, I enjoy pissing creepy fanboys off, but there are a lot of legitimate reasons to hate Final Fantasy VII. Not necessarily for what it is, but what it did to gaming culture at large.
Final Fantasy VII marked a major turning point in gaming in a lot of ways. It was one of the landmark titles that, along with Metal Gear Solid, really put the new PlayStation console on the map, showcasing features and technology that gamers had never seen before, like full-motion video seamlessly integrated into gameplay, colorful art, impressive 3D graphics. From a technical standpoint, it really raised the bar. Even today, when Sony was looking for something to showcase the power of the PlayStation 3 and get people fired up about what it could do, what did they do? Other than lie about their tech demos being pure-rendered, of course, they remade the opening cinematic from Final Fantasy VII. And that just prompted all the fans to ask whether they'd remake the whole game for the PS3. People loved it that much. It was new and it was fresh in almost every respect. It had a futuristic setting, and it made revisions to the combat and magic system that shifted the whole paradigm. It changed everything. So what's the problem? It changed everything. Welcome to the death of the old-school Final Fantasy gamer. Before, with Final Fantasy, it was gamers only. Then when 7 came out, all of a sudden the game became something else. It started attracting a new kind of fan. Really, really creepy anime freaks. All of a sudden, liking Final Fantasy put otherwise respectable gamers on the same bandwagon as people who feel compelled to dress like idiots and who think Neon Genesis Evangelion was really deep. I'm sorry, I just never understood cosplay. These costumes were never meant to be seen in actual 3 dimensions, and nobody in the history of ever has looked cool carrying a 6-foot foam buster sword. It's just childish. You could pervert anything, I suppose, but otaku are capable of some weird shit. You want to see what I mean? Go to Google image search and just type in Tifa or Selfie or any other woman in the Final Fantasy universe and see what you get with the safety filters off. I can't even show you 90% of this shit. Most of these pictures of Tifa seem to be under the impression that her boobs are roughly the size of giant pumpkins with foot-long nipples that stick out like ICBMs. And here's some from the next game. I know these aren't from 7, but believe me, you can find stuff just like it for that one too. What the hell is Selfie doing with her nunchucks? This must be from Bandcamp. Oh, this is the tame stuff. I even found one of a lactating her man, rape porn, underage character porn, and the gigabytes of over 10,000 nasty mass. But alright, I guess I ought to at least explain how the game sucks. People always compliment the plot, but it really boils down to an angsty, long-haired emo punk tart with a 7-foot sword and an Oedipus complex, wanting to drop a big fucking meteor on the planet for no real reason. Of course, to do this, he has to collect a bunch of magic rocks, and only a group of terrorists rebelling against the oppressive Shinra Corporation, known as Avalanche, can stop him. Some of the characters in this game either. At it,
Neither is this.
It was clips like these that I'll admit for years sort of put me off to Spoony, because frankly he seemed a lot like a grumpy bitch that hated fun things, if it wasn't specifically something that he grew up with enjoying. It also felt like the core reasons he hated Final Fantasy VII was because A, it had whimsical elements and comedy in it, which is something that every Final Fantasy game has. It had a story about a villain that wanted to do evil things, and had a motivation based on revenge, which, despite what random reviewers of the time may think, pointing out objective plot elements does not suddenly make the game bad because you pointed out what the plot is about. This is sadly a bit of a pitfall of many both movie and game reviewers of the time, though, mind you, where they would basically just point out plot elements and then sort of pause and say, yeah, pretty dumb, right? As if that was some kind of gotcha that they just explained what the plot of the game was about. Lord of the Rings is about a bunch of dudes who want to throw a ring possessed by an evil dude into a volcano. And there's like talking trees, a bunch of different fantasy races, and a bunch of sword fights. Yeah, who's supposed to take any of that shit seriously? Pretty dumb, right? See what I mean? It's just kind of reductive. And then another reason he hates the game is because there are weirdos who draw porn of it online. Like, okay, that and like every other fucking thing online. What exactly does that have to do with the quality of the game, though? If anything, that just makes me question why you're so knowledgeable about porn related to this shit. So again, this stuff kind of put me off to Spoony for quite a little while back in the day when I was watching all of these creators on a daily basis. Because again, to me, Spoony felt like he was just a bitter fanboy in of himself who didn't often know what he was talking about, but liked painting things in the worst possible light that he could, at least with this specific fandom that he particularly hated for whatever reason. But then as time went on and I saw more of his reviews and kind of got to know him a lot more because he was in so many other kind of awesome videos, I finally came to the conclusion that yeah, everything I said was still true, but he was also still pretty funny. Could I point out that Spoony complains about the magic GF system in the game multiple times, and showcase how even after he was corrected on how it works later in the video series by people in his comment section because his original rant on the GF system was so incredibly incorrect in his conclusions he came to with it, and yet even after being corrected, he still is not understanding how it works? Yes, I could show that. I could also point out that what he's complaining about is often the opposite problem people complain about with the system. Not being that the game is tedious, but rather that the system can be so easily broken and make the game far too fucking easy way too early on. Could I also point out that him complaining about people making porn of these characters while literally looking it up himself and putting it in his own video was kind of fucking pointless? Yes. Could I also note that him saying all that stuff about anime fans being weird while him saying stuff like this in the same exact review?
That's right, a schoolgirl in a miniskirt armed with nunchucks. Hot. Zell is astonished to the point of wetting his pants at the fact that we actually have a room on the train. Hey, for $3,000, I better have a room. And Selfie starts working her lolicon 12-year-old maturity charms on you.
Sort of feels like he's projecting just a little bit there. Yes, I could. But, to be honest, even if I have some personal gripes with how the game is covered and the strange bits of hypocrisy and just not understanding the basic mechanics at play, the video is still so full of raw anger and passion, it's hard to not still enjoy it and get a laugh from something in the video. And I think that really is something. Again, as I pointed out in my Lindsay Ellis section of this whole retrospective, I can disagree with someone's overall takes and opinions on media, but still see the value in their work. And that's sort of how I feel about Spoony's grand Final Fantasy VIII retrospective. It's a pretty funny experience, even if it's laden with issues that stem more from Spoony being kind of obtuse about media and game mechanics. The journey all the same is still pretty funny, because admittingly, there is something interesting about seeing his perspective on the game, and how he just takes none of it seriously at any given moment. And plus, there is still plenty of stuff worth riffing on, and been joking about in Final Fantasy VIII. It's far from a perfect game. Same goes for really the whole franchise. Plus, by Review's series end, he ends up introducing his character of Dr. Insano into the series, him just having taken over the United States as the president.
NBC News calling for the Democratic candidate.
I can't believe it! Of all my master schemes to take over the world, the thousands I killed with my army of robotic suicide squirrels, the millions I spent trying to kill you all with push and eat macaroni in a tube, my even as of yet uncompleted orbital death ray, and all I had to do was run for president? I wasn't even really taking this all that seriously. I even used my real name. You voted for a guy named Dr. Insano! I mean, I know Lex Luthor won last term, but I thought that just had something to do with Superboy Prime punching reality. I never thought this would work. You'll soon all receive your mandatory reassignment orders to my obedience gnomes. Failure to comply will result in your summary execution, reanimation, and then your zombified corpses will be taken to serve as cannon fodder in my gladiatorial arena, where you will periodically be chosen by lottery to fight with various dinosaurs, robots, aliens, and other foul agents of the undead I create in my science lab. With science? Oh, let's see, I know I'm forgetting something. Foo, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Again, as I noted before in my Linkara video, Dr. Insano was just a random gag in a Linkara video before this, but Spoony really ran with it, and it allowed him to kinda show off his acting chops and get into a fun character, which is why I think so many came to really love him as a reoccurring character, not just in Spoony's videos, but as well as other people's videos and eventually the various Channel Awesome movies. By Review's end, Spoony fucking dies, and a clone of him has to take over the channel for a while. Though, I promise the lore never goes that much deeper than that. We're not looking at Linkara's atop the fourth wall levels of storytelling here. Still, all the same, the plot of this finale is Dr. Insano wants to kill Spoony, and, well, yeah, that scene plays out kind of like this.
So sorry to interrupt, everyone.
Well, can it wait? I'm almost finished with this game. I just have to cover the ending.
Oh yes, how very apropos. You finally finished the game that haunted your childhood, and now I finish this experiment permanently.
What the hell are you talking about?
Well, let's be honest with each other. You're dragging us both down with your lame puppet show review thing. Your camera's crapping out, and you still live with your parents and you're 28. I'm surprised you haven't killed yourself by now. Trust me, I'm doing you a favor, and besides, I've got a much more charismatic host all lined up.
But you can't kill me. You're me.
And I can't even begin to tell you how confusing that is when tax season rolls around. No, it's much simpler this way. Besides, I saved a load of money on this particular assassination. Ordinarily, I'd never be able to afford a mercenary like this, but when I mentioned your name, why, he said he'd do it for nothing.
Squall! But we hate Final Fantasy!
What is it about the name Dr. Insano that eludes you people? Honest to God, people are stupid! Look, it's nothing personal. You suck and you have to die. Call it quality control. I spent all day thinking of that one.
So Spoony has to fight Squall and make it out of all this with a huge ol' fucking bang. And for what it is, it's a pretty cool way to end out this big retrospective. In fact, I would actually argue that doing these bigger plot lines for these series or major game retrospectives at least makes some kind of sense because there's a beginning and an end to the story that's easy to follow just by simply watching the retrospective. Whereas with Linkara, these stories would be spread out across multiple different comic books with no real connection to one another. Spoony would also come to review Final Fantasy X and X-2, as well as do a retrospective on the whole Ultima series in the future, which I think we'll talk about the Ultima stuff a little bit later. But delving more into general stuff, from the Final Fantasy VIII review to all the other reviews that he has done and would do for quite some time, I would say the strongest core of Spoony's commentary style is his cynicism. Call him Cynical Spoony because his perspective on art, or people enjoying art, on writing, or game mechanics, the world and world building is all painted through the lens of cynicism. And sometimes, as I noted, it can be a little annoying, while other times it's pretty damn funny. I think is ultimately both of these things because the other major factor in why it's this way is because it's genuine. Unlike that of James Rolfe's AVGN or Doug Walker's Nostalgia Critic, where while there was some blurring of lines, there was a distinct character that they were playing. Noah Antwiler's Spoony is never really much of a character. I mean, sure, he is exaggerating sometimes, but you can really feel the venom in his words at times. And that can sometimes feel a little intense over a random game, or really fucking funny depending on the context. There is a flow his videos get as they go on that make them very entertaining.
But he was abducted by ninjas! Ninjas! Call the cops! There are ninjas kidnapping people on TV! The cops! Did no one get a license plate? Do ninjas! Kidnapping! TV!
Oh, hey, I wanted to double check that clue. It's Mon, right? Nah, it's just that I heard some kids saying it was Key.
It's Monkey.
Yeah, I figured it was Mon. Over and out.
Put it together, fuck pump, it's Monkey.
The clues are Key and Mon.
It's Monkey! How do you not get this?
Keymon?
It's Monkey! Monkey! You vapid whores!
Monkey!
Ah! Oh my god!
Monkey!
Monkey!
See, what's cool about the cloning lab level is this presents all new opportunities for really cool, brand new bad guys to fight, like, cyborg cloned dinosaurs or super soldiers.
You're in my spot.
You son of a bitch! What the fuck are you talking
Get
about?
out of the way.
What the fuck? I didn't even start this level yet!
Boss, you're in my way.
What the fuck are you? This is the spawn point, you fucking ass miner! I'm gonna shoot you in the eyes right now! It's not even 10 seconds in this fucking mission, it's already getting on my tits. What the fuck? They don't even wait now. It's just fucking
Opening
immediate.
clear. Go when
it's like
ready.
it knows me. It knows how to fucking piss me off.
Time to move!
Get down! Drop your weapons! Get down! Drop your weapons!
Oh.
Drop your weapons!
See, what the fuck am I supposed to do there when they were...
in my position, sir.
Again with the fucking...
Hands in the air, now!
Ah!
But on the other hand, one trope of Spoony's reviews I think has aged rather poorly is some of his skits and movie clip stuff. Now sometimes his skits can be at least a little funny, or at least amusing, but the movie clip stuff on the other hand is kind of just never ever funny. Because it's just a random clip from a movie as a reaction to a video game. I know Doug Walker did this as well, but it was usually just a quick clip or quote from a film, whereas oftentimes Spoony could sometimes just show an entire clip from a movie and it's just kind of playing there with very little added or different about it. But ultimately both are rather harmless. Sometimes Spoony's skits can go on for way too long as well, like with this one where he plays with some toys in this little skit in his Microcosm review.
The DC Universe was gripped in terror. After defeating the entire Justice League, the world was under the thrall of... Giant Dizzy Gillespie, this colossus of raw jazz power. Why, who could possibly stop him but Earth's greatest remaining hero? Golden Age Superman!
Stand down, citizen! Your weird jungle music is terrifying the people and destroying our noble white-bread American way of life! What's this? Could Golden Age Superman be a racist? Can he stand up to giant Dizzy Gillespie? Who can? Let's watch! Oh! Great Caesar's ghost! Superman is totally helpless before his giant punch!
Fucking Spoony walks so Super Mario Logan could run, I guess. And this one is kind of funny, since in a Q&A video he did kinda early on, someone asked him if he's gonna play with his toys more in his videos, to which he takes the question totally seriously, despite it really seeming like it was a sarcastic question. But overall, the major problem is Spoony's skits can really drag on, and are usually just worth skipping if I'm gonna be honest. And sadly, the movie clip uses ends up making multiple of his videos get taken down due to copyright claims over the years. Which is sad, because if you want to watch all of Spoony's videos, you can't even see all of them on his own channel, instead having to go to re-upload/archive channels, sometimes with Russian text being used because, well, I guess a lot of Russians liked Spoony. Shout out to them, I suppose. On the note of that Ask Spoony video though, a few more insights about him can be gleaned from it, including how really the games he wants to review are stuff he has personal connection to. He doesn't really like taking requests, or reviewing a game that's well known to be bad just because it's bad. Noting how he actually regretted one of his earlier reviews, that being a review of the E.T. game on the Atari, because he didn't have a personal connection to it and sees the video as far inferior because of it. He also notes how he doesn't like responding to emails or messages very much, as the whole thing seems to overwhelm him a bit, as he notes that he appreciates the comments and reaching out, but he simply just cannot get to everyone, and so he tends to just end up getting to no one. Oh, and I guess while we're looking at it, and it's fresh in my mind, have you guys ever seen fucking red blinds on a window before? I've always found that detail of his room to be rather interesting, and I guess kind of iconic, with his green recliner contrasting off of it quite well, alongside his robot. Oh yeah, his robot. I guess I should have noted that by now. But this robot, which is kind of a channel mascot and website mascot for him, is named Burton, and he's Spoony's friend, made up of old vacuum cleaner parts, and, well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, remember how in Linkara's video series he has a little robot friend who was like one of the main antagonists of the entire series and shit, and became a major character with drama and all that sort of jazz? Yeah, well here in Spoony's show, the robot is, a cool prop. Yeah, that's really it. Mostly just a reference to Mystery Science Theater 3000. Though, to be fair, I guess in the Final Fantasy X review and X-2 review, Burton does go missing for a while, and it's implied that Sephiroth took control of the robot and is going to do something with that. But this is never really followed up, and is just kind of there as a plot detail.
Hey everyone, a lot of people have written in asking questions about some of the stuff in my room, most notably the little blue robot that's sitting behind my chair in most of my videos. That robot's name is Burton, and to understand the significance of Burton, I have to tell a fairly long and involved story, and that story involves this camera. I originally bought this camera because I had written a screenplay for a movie I wrote called FLGS, which is short for Friendly Local Game Store. The story behind that is that from the ages of like 16 to 21, I basically worked and lived out of a game shop known as Michael's Magic. It was a place that sold like board games, RPGs, stuff like that. And if you look around, you can kind of see the scope of, just the beginning of the scope of the RPGs that I actually own. And they're in fact behind me, and just I have rooms full of these things. And I had bought a camera on eBay, a good camera, and I had even gotten so far as casting the play. I had a casting call at ASU, and that was where it kind of started to go wrong. Mainly women showed up to the audition, a lot of them, talented ones too. It was about a ratio of like 20 women to 6 men who showed up. And the screenplay I had written had about 18 male roles and 2 women, so I started realizing, like, can I rewrite this script to involve mostly women? And I couldn't do it. A, because I'm probably not that good a writer, and B, the script really wasn't that good anyway, so maybe it was a godsend it didn't get made. And so I'm stuck with this camera, and I'm thinking, what else could I possibly do with this camera? So I thought about doing a little bit more small-scale type stuff, things I could do very cheaply. So one thing I thought about doing was I always wanted to do a Mystery Science Theater fan vid. So that's something you can do fairly cheaply. If you have a camera and a bed sheet, you can kind of do a Mystery Science Theater thing if you have the mind to do it. So what I was going to do was I had already done a number of DVD commentaries where I had written them out, and they were fairly good. They're on my website when you can get them to work. Sometimes I think the synchronization is a bit off, but I actually had a lot of fun writing them, and I had a lot of fun performing them, so I thought, why not graduate to the video stage? And so I was like, okay, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to do it my way. I could do Mystery Science Theater, I didn't want to have Crow and Servo, I wanted to rip it off, but I didn't want to rip it off that egregiously. I wanted to put my own little spin on it. Really crappy looking robots for 2 reasons. 1, because my character has absolutely no craftsmanship, and 2, I didn't have a lot of money to build professional looking robots. So I got a bunch of friends together, and what we did was we made several robots for the show. The best of which is Burton the robot here. Burton is a converted dust buster that I got at a hardware store, and I liked his color and the fact it had this little window. And so I thought it'd be great to have this little cyclopean robot with 1 eye.
It's actually pretty funny that Spoony appeared so often in other people's stuff on the site, and really hammed it up for the camera. He's got a really good stage presence for sure, but on his own show, he kinda doesn't like having a ton of that stuff. At least real big story type stuff anyway. Though he would do some of that later on in his Ultima series. But again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But on the whole, Spoony's videos could sometimes just be vlogs, where he literally just stares at the camera and rants about a game or a movie he just recently watched unscripted. And he made a ton of videos like that actually. I guess what I'm saying is, Spoony was a lot more down to earth with his video style, which was interesting when compared to so many on the site trying to really up the ante and bring storylines and lots of skits to their shows. Spoony sometimes fell into those trappings as well, but far less so than others I would say. On the note of trappings of old YouTubers, Spoony also would make a video at some point about the various suspensions that have been going on YouTube when Viacom was suing Google over people using their copyrighted material on the site, and this at some point caused a bunch of YouTubers to have their accounts suspended, including that of James Rolfe's AVGN for a time. Yeah, there was a short stint of time where the main AVGN channel was murked off the platform thanks to the shitheads over at Viacom. Luckily, Google won on that lawsuit, but this is yet another reason why copyright in general should be abolished. At any rate, Spoony had several of his videos get hit during this time, and sort of figured that his time was nigh.
And I don't know if this will be resolved or if there's any kind of big misunderstanding. I have no juice, no finger on the pulse of the YouTube community. I am a minor player. That being said, I'm putting this video up because I may not be around on YouTube much longer. I think even I can see the handwriting on the wall. It seems like YouTube has gone to war on its video game reviewers, and I am the last of the Mohicans, so to speak. There are not many of us left.
However, luckily Doug came to save the day, and it was around this exact same time that Spoony was offered to make videos on thatguywiththeglasses.com, and he would, of course, agree to this, and would again become quite popular as a creator, and one of the top billed ones at that, and would end up collaborating with Linkara and Doug in particular a fair bit.
It's like I'm going to pass on this one unless I can find someone to review.
Did someone say Uva Man, I've wanted to take a shot at that cinematic Hitler for years.
How did you get in here?
I'm from the future.
What?
I'm just kidding, I broke in.
Well, not that I wouldn't want to watch the movie again with you, Spoony, but I fear a film this bad would take at least 3 reviewers, so unless you can find someone else...
Hey, guys!
Oh, Jesus, no.
I saw the nostalgia signal in the sky.
Why did I install that?
No one should have to watch Uva Ball alone, especially with Spoony.
Hey, dude, check out what I can make the nostalgia critic say.
I like to wear women's clothing. I like to wear women's clothing.
One of these collabs would end up being the show Spooning with Spoony, where, well, Spoony interviews someone while they are in bed with him.
Hey everyone, and you know what my favorite song is lately? Afternoon Delight, and believe you me, I've been getting a lot of that here. Welcome to my new show, Spooning with Spoony. And say hello to my first guest, and
What happened last night?
Oh, Lindsay, right. How are you, Lindsay?
Who are you?
You don't know me. I'm a popular internet personality, Noah Antwiler, aka the Spoony One, as you well know.
Oh my god, not again.
In fact, she knows me better than anyone, and I do mean in a biblical sense. Oh yeah. What is your problem? Look, I double bagged it, okay? Anyway, that's all the time we've got for Spooning with Spoony. Next week, I'm sure we'll have some more terrific guests. Until then, you stay sexy.
I don't either. I'm so ashamed of my body.
Be sure to catch you next time. Oh, hey, man.
I brought some coffee.
That's all right. Looks like it's time for round 2. But
I need to cuddle.
that's okay.
I want to cuddle too.
Oh, it's that good kind of hurt. Hey, welcome back everyone to a special holiday edition of Spooning with Spoony. Today I'd like to spread a little Yuletide queer with my first guest. Oh, that's right, the nostalgia critic. Wake up, baby, it's time for the show. Yeah, he's kind of out of it. I am too. I'm a little out of my element, you see, because, well, I'm wearing a new robe, as you can see. Last one got kind of stained in the Wet and Wild proceedings, so I had to pull this out of that guy's closet. Speaking of, still kind of a wet spot here. I kind of stretched you out, leaked a little bit. Anyway, I tell you what, I'm so exhausted. That is an experience that I don't think I can ever accurately convey in words, because, well, let's just say this guy is a lot more pliable than he looks. When this guy is on all fours, I tell you, it's a good thing that tie never comes off, because when he's all slippery and sweaty, it's good to have something to hold on to, you know what I'm saying? You gotta ride the pony. How you doing, man? You think we pulled a man sandwich with a nostalgia critic? You should have seen the Puerto Rican pretzel I had with this little Superman here. That's what I'm talking about. You talk about endurance, there's your Man of Steel right there. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm gonna kill you.
I don't think you will, unless you want the first tape to hit the internet as well, my man. I could go all night running down the list of positions we pulled off. Combination platter, 7-layer burrito, super nachos, that came with a side of beans, let me tell you. Oh, deep fried ice cream, props my favorite, El Pollo Loco. It's muy caliente.
This series didn't last super long, but it did play up the character that seems to have been placed upon him at some point while he was working at the site, that being a weird sexual deviant. Now, to be fair, this isn't always the case, and more often than not, the real character he plays most often with people was either just himself, of which he happens to work really good off of other people, or that of Dr. Insano. But this was one such case of this personality/character that I suppose was done for laughs. It will become important later on though, trust me. Something else notable is that during 2009, Spoony was going through a bit of a rough patch as some personal issues started bubbling over, that we'll get to shortly. But first and foremost, at the same time, he was also wrapping up his Final Fantasy VIII review and preparing to move out of his parents' home. His recording equipment began to break down during this time, leaving him wondering if he could continue his show. His ending to the Final Fantasy VIII review, where he dies, was actually in preparation for the show possibly coming to an end there, but he managed to get his equipment taken care of, thankfully. He then moved out into his own place with his then girlfriend Scarlett, who he cared for a great deal and was particularly protective of, with the best example of this being when in 2010, Spoony had won the title of the funniest person to follow online by Mashable.com. While not some crazy thing, I do think that it was a title that Spoony was greatly honored by, and thus wanted to celebrate his award with a commemorative video, where his girlfriend Scarlett presented him with a trophy of the award. However, this video is completely lost media, as it was taken down mere hours after its release. And the reason for this is because people were mocking his girlfriend for her appearance, which resulted in not only Spoony deleting the video, but taking to his site's forums to lash at his audience and those that mocked her, all within this following message. Quote, "An appeal for manners. I debated with myself a long time on whether or not to post anything about this matter. I thought I might be feeding the trolls, but I think this needs to be addressed. First of all, thank you all for the extraordinary support and well wishes this year that helped me win the Open Web Award of Funniest Person of the Year. I'm truly touched and honored by your support, and I hope that I'll continue to earn it. That said, the celebration has tainted a great deal for me because of a few bad eggs out there who continue to post cruel and hateful things on the blog and on the forums. I'm very, very upset right now. In fact, some of the comments lately have left me completely outraged. I've taken down my latest video and I don't intend to remake it, because honestly, I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like being funny, and you don't want to see me in front of the camera right now. These wanton emotional attacks on hard-working innocent people have to stop. I don't mind if you come after me, in a way. I open myself up to it. I prefer if you didn't insult me, of course, but I can take it. Where I draw the line is when you make hateful, ignorant comments against my friends, family, and loved ones. These belligerent, crude comments have caused more harm than you know. It's not fair. It's not warranted. There's no call to ever say such awful things to anyone, and I'm tired of it. And I know I'm only addressing a scant few people out there. I have thousands of fans, almost all of whom are astoundingly generous, kind, and supportive. I know you're good people, and I never get to thank these fans enough. It sucks that I have to stop the presses, drag the whole party down, and give these cowards the attention they don't deserve. I hope you'll all pay close attention when I tell you this. This site has a bad reputation. The people I work with don't like it when I post their videos here, because they tell me the fans here are downright petty and childishly mean, and I don't know what to tell them. My moderators and admins work overtime filtering out hate speech. I can understand that some of you don't like other video producers. It's all a matter of personal preference. But that's no reason to use sadistic speech picking on people's weight, looks, religion, ethnicity, or anything else. I simply can't believe that we live in an age where people are capable of such pig ignorance and shallow hatred. These aren't the kinds of fans I want or need. If you don't like something that I post on the site, fine, you can voice your disapproval. But you can do so in a rational manner, without resorting to bullying, infantile insults. I want this site to be a place for fun and for laughs. I want people to be able to come here and feel safe and welcome. I don't want people coming here feeling like they have to guard themselves for war with a bunch of whiny pre-adolescents who only know how to spit bile. If you can't learn to at least be civil, please leave. You're not wanted here, and you're making everyone else look bad. We're all here to have fun. Please try to remember that." Unquote. Now, here's the thing. I've seen a lot of videos and articles and opinions from people in general, really lambasting Spoony for this particular message. And sure, maybe it wasn't the smartest thing to do, especially lashing out at his fans, even if it was just a select few, or frankly, giving attention to those who probably simply did not deserve to get that sort of attention. However, if there was something he was gonna get mad about, I think people mocking his girlfriend over how she looks is at least understandable, and I'd say there's nothing wrong with Spoony standing up for his woman. Again, the smart choice would be to ignore such comments, or frankly, if you can, even keep your personal life and relationships away from your career and professions. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily going to fault Spoony for having what is the normal human response to people insulting someone that you care about. However, the greater context does matter if you're wondering why so many people point to this moment as being a major shift in Spoony. See, in the forums of Spoony's site, he had begun to get a bit of a reputation for not taking criticism very well whatsoever, and he was quick to use the banhammer on anyone who he didn't like. And his girlfriend Scarlett was also well known to be the webmaster and main admin of the site, and she was even more banhammer inclined. She was also the one who designed the new look and art for the website, that would come to be quite iconic. However, due to this, people saw her being on camera as the perfect opportunity to mock her, and I suppose take her down a peg. And while not being able to take criticism and being banhammer happy are both pretty immature and emblematic of the issues that would come to plague Spoony as a whole, I still think mocking his girlfriend and him coming to her defense is not so outlandish, and again, showcases that both sides were pretty immature at the end of the day. Now some of you might be wondering, okay, well what sort of stuff were people criticizing Spoony for anyway? Well, besides the basic complaints about him not understanding Final Fantasy VIII game mechanics, many of them also got annoyed at his output, that being that he would often spend time making videos about stuff people didn't really care about, with his Wrestle series being a great example of this, where he would make these long, hour-long rants and discussions about, well, wrestling. This annoyed a lot of people who simply just wanted to see more game reviews from him, or at the very least, vlogs about nerdy stuff. The wrestling stuff was something that I think was just too far away from his other source of content, and so anytime he would upload stuff relating to it, there would be several comments bemoaning that it would be yet again another boring wrestling video. And while speaking personally, this is definitely not my type of content either. At the end of the day, it was Spoony's channel, and if he wanted to talk about that stuff, I suppose it was his choice. After all, Spoony talked about, frankly, whatever he was passionate about, be it passionately angry or otherwise. But nonetheless, it was still something people did complain about. Spoony in general also seemed rather standoffish to most fans, or people who wished to talk to him. And while you could chalk that up to him being a loner or just antisocial, that's not really true, as around the same time Spoony was again one of the biggest collaborators of thatguywiththeglasses.com, and bro was literally taking planes and traveling across the nation to feature in videos, and later full-on video creator collaboration movies, and he was well known and liked by his peers. But when it came to his fans, Spoony seemed to sadly focus on the few negative voices in the crowd rather than the many positive ones, a fact that would prove to be quite detrimental. At the same time, some fans also didn't like that he was collaborating so much in other people's videos instead of working on his own, with some feeling as though Spoony was only doing what he wanted and not what fans wanted out of him, which is true. But then I suppose there is nothing wrong with Spoony doing that. He was a man of very specific tastes and likes, and like it or not, you were gonna get Spoony's raw emotions, thoughts, and ideas, be they clashing interests or not. And while some might find that kind of annoying or stupid, I honestly think there is something earnest and pretty cool about that. However, Spoony getting upset at people complaining about it or not wanting to watch all the stuff he makes is yet again a bit childish. People really need to learn to just stop fucking paying attention to the comment section. Later on, apparently people also criticized Spoony when he did introduce some lore and story elements into some of his game reviews, which is fair enough, but that criticism might have been from people who more so didn't want him to have that sort of stuff take over his channel entirely, like his friend Linkara, with literal hours and hours of lore in between all of his reviews. So I imagine some of those criticisms were well-meaning, yet still Spoony lashed out at all those who dared to give him any inkling of criticism. Though even with these issues and little cracks in the foundation, truth be told, they were just that. Basic background stuff, because otherwise Spoony was on top of the world, having become very popular and well known and making some pretty serious money at that, doing what he loves. But by 2010, the first real controversial moment in Spoony's online career would finally happen, at none other than E3.
I was there playing it real time.
Yeah.
And
so I saw the footage, and there was one word searing through my mind like bolts of fire, and that word: betrayal.
What?
Betrayal. Betrayed me. This game sucks. It has nothing to do with XCOM. Nothing. Nothing.
Betrayal. That word that echoed through the halls of E3's convention center would come to define not only that of Spoony's career, but perhaps that of all of Channel Awesome. But we mustn't get ahead of ourselves. All that said, this clip about Spoony expressing his feelings, his anger about this XCOM game, the Angry Joe, on the other hand, really seems to think is gonna be pretty cool, quickly went viral and became sort of Spoony's catchphrase of sorts later. But of course, I suppose we can't bring this moment up without talking about Lordkat. Who is Lordkat, you may be asking? Oh, he's the fella who people bring up when they make a video about Spoony. Because Lordkat apparently is under the impression that this moment ruined their career. And apparently any ambitions or dreams he might have had for becoming a gaming journalist. Something he expressed later on in his podcast.
Oh, indeed. We're back with part 2 of Lordkat Live. Hour number 2. We'll be taking more of your calls in a few minutes, but a couple of things we got to talk about. Last night I was angry, I was cranky, I was really, really fucking tired. Really overtired, and that's when I found out something, courtesy of the chat room. Found out that Noah Antwiler decided he wanted to abuse one of my fans who called him out on his bullshit. Now, I've worked with Noah before, just like I've worked with many people at That Guy with the Glasses. I've had a lot of respect for people at That Guy with the Glasses, and I no longer respect Noah Antwiler. I used to respect him because I felt he put a lot of work into his videos. He put a lot of work into getting to where he was, and I thought he was a funny guy. I thought he was original, I thought he was innovative, and I thought he deserved to be where he was. And I no longer see that. The man is possibly the single largest waste of talent I've seen in a very long time. I've seen a lot of stand-up comics do open mic nights who were genuinely in love with stand-up comedy and were funny, but they lacked a certain something that they needed to work through in order to find out what worked for them. And they were good people, but they gave up. And I am sitting here today telling you, Noah Antwiler, you need to give up. You don't have what it takes to be successful. You don't have what it takes to be popular. You don't have what it takes to make it in the world. You think you're something, but you're a fucking nobody. You live out there in your fucking desert in the middle of nowhere, proclaiming you're gonna be this fucking actor somewhere, and you're too much of a bitch to move out to LA and follow your dreams. You're too much of a fucking pussy. You're a fucking coward. Don't you fucking talk about doing stand-up comedy. I was there in the fucking trenches. I worked my ass off and I failed. You fucking talking about doing stand-up comedy. How about actually doing real stand-up comedy, you fucking coward? You're not gonna fucking do that. Go to a fucking bar on open mic night and get a fucking bottle thrown at your head, you fucking coward. Because you're not building anything. You're just doing the same systematic thing over and over again. You do nothing for your fans, and you do nothing for the people you're associated with. And so officially, for the first time on a show, I've discussed it before, but let's discuss why I left That Guy with the Glasses. Now, I am breaking my agreement here with That Guy with the Glasses by discussing this, but I think it's time the whole world, Spoony, heard just how much of a fucking idiot you truly are. You and that other idiot, Joe. When you were at E3 that one year, and you decided to go up and down the hallways screaming about XCOM's betrayal, and Joe decided to ask people, can I choke you on camera? Guess what happened, Spoony? Guess what fucking happened? The whole gaming industry turned its back on me. Not you, not Joe, not Blistered Thumbs, me. I went to GDC the following year, Spoony. I went to GDC the following year, and I had a chance to interview Notch, Mojang, Specifications, Minecraft. Had a chance. A fucking chance. He was hot then. That was going to be huge for This Week in Games. That was going to be huge for the stream. It was going to be amazing. And you know what happened? The representative at Mojang caught wind that we were going to interview Notch. And he stepped in. And he said, oh, I've heard of you. You're with that guy with the glasses. You're with Blistered Thumbs. And I tried to tell them, no, I'm not. But he said my name was associated with them. And he heard what you did. Making a fucking jackass of yourself at E3. You fucking moron. So they shot it down. And then word spread at GDC. Oh, I heard about you. You were the guy at E3. They thought I was the guy at E3 making a jackass of everyone. I was there trying to be a legitimate member of the business of the gaming industry, and I've worked my ass off to separate myself from you. Every time. You just don't get it. Every single fucking time. You act like a complete fucking jackass. It has repercussions for everyone you're associated with, and you don't give a shit. That's why I left that guy with the glasses. I can't fucking stand you. Bunch of fucking morons with their heads cut off running around screaming, betrayal. I want to choke you. Can I choke you on camera? You're a fucking idiot.
This goes on for another hour, by the way, and before the whole thing is done, lordkat has said that Spoony has a small penis, that he's one of the worst pieces of shit that he's ever met in his entire life, and, yeah, basically that he hopes he fucking dies a painful death. Now for a while, because of this, others would go on to, once again, point to this moment as something reckless and dumb Spoony had done. And maybe that was somewhat true, but it was also pretty damn funny, and had absolutely nothing to do with lordkat's career not going anywhere. Even Angry Joe, who arguably suffered the worst of this exchange since he's clearly visibly embarrassed at the attention Spoony was attracting when he started yelling, went out of his way to argue with lordkat on this point, stating on Twitter, quote, I think it's pretty cowardly for you to grossly twist things out of context on your podcast without anyone there to defend themselves at lordkat. I had no problem with you, actually considered you a cool dude, but realizing what you really think of me is sad. I'm unfollowing you, lordkat. Your rant against Spoony, where you referenced me and had your facts wrong about me asking to choke someone, was a step too far. You were never with me or around me at E3. Taking hearsay as truth? Considered you a friend once. I wish you and your fans the best, and your position in the gaming industry is whatever you make of it. It's not Spoony's fault or anyone else's fault but yours. Grow up. Unquote. And I'll actually double down on this as well, because I feel that this moment was truly emblematic of what people liked about him, and actually many of the people from thatguywiththeglasses.com, because this moment was emblematic of something that many of them had. Earnest, if not slightly cringy, sincerity. Past all the characters and jokes and what have you, when it came to talking about new movies or games or whatever's coming out, these people were not afraid to speak their minds, and express some hot takes too. Takes I sometimes even highly disagree with, but that I usually can at least respect as being just how they genuinely feel. This is important, especially if we're talking about gaming journalism, since before that time, and really still now, normal gaming journalism is not something that is ever really considered trustworthy. These people were really the forerunners of what would become a generalized movement on the internet, of people discussing, reviewing, and documenting content and art and media of all sorts, not to sell copies of said art and media, but for the sheer sake of it. And while sometimes these same people can be pretty fucking cringe and have some pretty bad takes about things in general too, it comes off as much more genuine than the manufactured slop of sites like IGN, GameSpot, and many of the magazines that would try to attempt to do the same thing. Spoony and Angry Joe got to take a look at the next upcoming game in a franchise. Angry Joe thought it looked pretty cool, and Spoony thought it looked like absolute shit, and was not afraid of just telling everyone what he thought about it. No beating around the bush, just honest opinions. And so Spoony yelling out like this, in my opinion, was actually pretty based. Unprofessional, sure, but I appreciate it all the same. However, there is an event the year after this, in 2011, that would prove to be much more detrimental to Spoony as a whole as time would come to show. And that was his girlfriend Scarlett breaking up with him. While the details surrounding this breakup are not well known, at the end of the day, Scarlett left Spoony and quickly cut ties with him entirely, and that included being the webmaster of his site. After this event, Spoony seemed to become extremely depressed and fall deeper into some of those bad habits he displayed before, from lashing out at others to some of his vlogs turning into full-on drunk rants, with one particular example being when Spoony would do a rant on Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1, paired up alongside Linkara and Wario. And during this, Spoony begins to completely break down, as he begins to reminisce on how he and Scarlett had watched all the other Twilight movies in the theater, and how much fun they had riffing on them. And before long, the weight of it all, and a mixture of the Black Kraken drum and Canadian Club whiskey next to him, I'm sure, starts to finally kick in.
That was one of the worst pieces of shit I ever seen in my life, and this was worse.
So I take it you liked it.
I'm so tired.
The thing is, you knew it was going to be a crap movie going.
No, because, okay, for those of you who don't know, I needed someone to, like, be here just to make sure I don't do something stupid. So that's why I've got Linkara and Wario via conference call right now. But, okay, don't give me this thing where, like, oh, you knew it was going to be bad when you walked in the door. Okay, that's partially true, but partially. I haven't slept in 36 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I so didn't want to go see this movie, because the last 3 years, Scarlett and I would go to see these movies, and they were like the best date nights we ever had. Was these fucking movies, because they were so fucking funny. They're fucking hilarious. So, like, they're bad, but I love the Twilight movies. But, like, there was nothing redeemable about it. It wasn't even funny Eclipse. And this piece of shit.
This wasn't an enjoyable kind of bad, like the...
No, nothing happens in this fucking movie. Nothing happens. I seriously have an emergency store of booze. Like, I don't drink. I don't. Like, you've probably seen, like, everyone's gone drinking at the crossovers and shit like that. Like, I don't drink. I'm just not I never got into it, but, like, I keep some around for guests, and because, like, there might be a day when I physically need a drink, and this is like
1 hour later.
I suppose I should wrap this up. I don't even know how long. I can't even read the number. I think I've been going on for an hour and 21 minutes. That's okay. Do you have any questions for me, like, while I'm completely hammered out of my mind?
No, I mean, well, not for me. I think it's pretty obvious about. But are you going to see the second one? Well, you're kind of obligated now.
Well, I gotta know how it ends, right? Fuck. You know what? Honestly, no. Most of the I'm gonna get kind of morose on you for a second, but, like, most of the fun of seeing these Twilight movies, and the reason I didn't want to go see this one, is because I was going with somebody, and I could make jokes about it with Scarlett, and that was the most fun I ever had was making jokes about this movie with someone, and I just don't have any friends, and like she's gone, and I don't. It's just me watching this really fucking boring movie, and there's no joy in it. It's
I get you, though. In fairness, you got us. We'll talk to you about it.
But you didn't even go see it.
Of course not. It's a piece of shit.
Of course, yeah, exactly, right?
See it to know that.
But I don't even know who goes to the theater. The theater was fucking packed. I can understand that, but it really is a matter of sharing it with somebody that I was really missing this time. That's why I needed you guys for this thing, because it would have been really sad for me to be like sitting here at this table just like bitching about it drunkenly on my own. I just needed somebody to kind of bounce this shit off of. So I thank you guys for being here. So like,
Not a problem, man. It was a lot of fun.
It is genuinely sad to see how much this had affected Spoony, and seeing Lewis try and comfort his friend as he shows this incredible vulnerability, while it all really is a perfect moment in time before what came next. Because you see, Spoony's zitter activities seemed to increase a ton after Scarlett left him. Once again, him ranting and getting into fights with people, and frankly, sharing a lot about himself, including the fact that he was bipolar. That's not to throw shade at that disorder, of course, but I will say that knowing that does explain some of the future events to come. One such case being tweets like these where Spoony just kind of bemoans his own existence and how alone he is. Quote, "Just another night, completely wasted in the dark, staring helplessly at a blank computer screen and cursing my own existence." On that note, one of the only things Spoony felt love and care for was his dog Oreo, who is a really fucking cute dog. But for Spoony, everything else was crashing down around him. He was spiraling down a pit of despair that seemed to have no clear way of climbing out. And this only made people either want to help him more, troll him more, or turn away from him entirely, not wanting to see the mess of the man he was now. And no matter the response, Spoony would lash out, complaining about those that left him, angry at those trolling him, and snippy at those who did try to help him, insisting that he didn't need any, in spite of it being quite obvious that he did. This would finally all reach a boiling point, however, a point of no return, in but one single tweet, one that would come to define the rest of his online career. Quote, "At Jesu Otaku, if things don't work out with you and at Nash076, I'd be happy to chain you up to a pipe in my basement and love you my way. My way of loving someone is dirty and painful and ends in tears." Unquote. Now, for a bit of context, Jesu Otaku was another contributor to thatguywiththeglasses.com, reviewing anime and the like, and Nash was her boyfriend, who had a podcast that was also on the site, and Spoony had just made a joke about chaining her up to his basement and, loving her his way. Now, why he decided to tweet this is fucking anyone's guess. But with the context of everything that was going on in his life, and how he was in a constant state of spiraling, I have near no doubt he posted this while drunk as all hell. However, this is still no excuse, and his actions ended up having some consequences. The first of those would be another thatguywiththeglasses.com site contributor, Obscurus Lupa, responding and the two having a fight about the whole thing. It all ending with Spoony falling back into self-pity and anguish again, with him stating the following in response. Quote, "Is there a punishment harsh enough for scum as loathsome as me? I really don't know what else I need to do. I've apologized, I've begged. Is it blood you want? Tears? I could rend my clothes asunder and wear a sackcloth. Flagellate myself with a barbed wire? I can do it. I will. I mean, God, I made a bad joke. I'm sorry. I'm fucked up. At Jesu Otaku, at Obscurus Lupa, I'm sorry already. Please take my penis. Burn it. I'm worse than Hitler. I should roast in hell if there is a pit deep enough for my sin. I beg for forgiveness. knowing full well I wouldn't be worth pissing on if my face was on fire, unquote. This being a pretty over-the-top and rather sarcastic apology. Now mind you, as far as I'm aware, Jessu Otaku never actually responded themselves to this tweet, and so there are some that felt as though Obscurus Lupa was getting upset on someone else's behalf, while others feel like it was the right thing to do, calling out his behavior. However, all the same, Spoony would come to greatly regret this tweet, as it seemed as though this was enough for 1 month later, on June 21st of 2012, for Spoony and That Guy with the Glasses to officially part ways with one another, ending out one of the site's most popular and prolific creators and collaborators. And while on both sides, they seem to give the answer for this breakup being a simple mutual agreement that they had no bad blood and they simply no longer needed to work together after all this time. We all know that's mostly the business-friendly answer. Once again, looking at all the context of what built up to this moment, and seeing as how this was announced just 1 month after his Jessu Otaku incident, I think it's pretty clear why That Guy with the Glasses didn't want to associate with him for their greater brand and image anymore. There was more than likely a lot of behind-the-scenes talking and perhaps even arguments over the whole thing. Though there is at least some truth to the fact that Spoony admittingly didn't need thatguywiththeglasses.com anymore, since his channel was doing quite well, and there was no longer any threat of copyright takedowns and the like for simple game reviews. Things had changed so rapidly from then to now. Really, while the site had been very useful, a godsend, really, to these creators at its inception, its usefulness by this point was mostly in marketing and working alongside all these other established and very popular creators. A privilege and no longer a necessity is what I'm saying. But regardless of whatever behind-the-scenes conversations happened, the era of Spoony being with thatguywiththeglasses.com was over. And so you might be thinking, man, so is this where the downward spiral really hits its bottom? Well, actually, no, interestingly enough. See, despite what someone may say, Spoony's story is anything but a straightforward path. Because while Spoony had just lost his biggest creative group and was now on his own, this was about the time lordkat would also make his issues known about Spoony and the betrayal incident. Spoony, on the other hand, was still making videos, and he was still on friendly terms with Doug Walker and Lewis as well, for quite some time, and would even make cameos and the like in both of their videos for the next couple years. Though eventually, the three creators at some point did all start to drift apart. Something that is genuinely sad to see, as the three of them certainly worked very well off of one another, and I'm sure many would sort of consider them the three musketeers of the site, if ever there was any. Not only that, but a lot of people actually took Spoony's side in this whole controversy, with many people feeling as though the joke, while definitely in extremely bad taste, was not enough for him to be kicked off the entire website and from his friend group. And so when Spoony went full on independent and even opened up a Patreon, it all ended up being quite successful. On top of that, in 2012, Spoony would also get a new girlfriend named April, who would appear in some of his videos and vlogs from time to time, with the two bouncing off of each other, and for some time, this did seem to help greatly with Spoony's mental state. And despite once again many people lashing at her, she, for the most part, didn't seem as bothered by it, at least for now, and would become a major pillar in Spoony's life. By 2013, Spoony would buy a new house in Aurora, Illinois, outside of Chicago, alongside April. He was also making a lot of consistent content, and while a lot of it was vlogs and stuff, he still did do a lot of game reviews, and hell, when he did do them, they were actually getting a lot better. He was evolving as a creator. They were more funny, and actually pretty damn informative too, and they were getting longer as well. And it was during this era that he released what I consider to be the apex of all his content, his Ultima series retrospective.
I grew up playing computer games back before we had Windows, before we had graphic interfaces, back when we were still stuck on a DOS command line. We didn't use mice, and our monitors had exactly one color. Well, two if you counted black. The story of the Ultima series is as old as computer gaming itself, and it stretches all the way to present day with one of the longest running and most enduring MMORPGs around. And I'm going to take you on the same ride I did from beginning to end. Long years ago, back in caveman time,
Super nerd Richard Garriott, best known to his friends as Lord British, kept up a hobby of coding his own games, modeled after his tabletop Dungeons & Dragons hobby. The first game was Akalabeth, World of Doom.
Damn, that artwork is badass.
Now, to be honest, I never actually played this game until the late 90s when it came as an extra on the Ultima Collection CD-ROM. See, the Akalabeth was made in 1980 and I wasn't even born yet. Most gamers call Akalabeth Ultima Zero, but really it doesn't have anything to do with the overall Ultima storyline. It's more of an example of Garriott experimenting and perfecting gameplay elements for Ultima 1.
Now, as I've noted, Ultima is a series that I've never played myself, and frankly, if it were not for Spoony, I'm not sure I would have ever known about it, since it's not really a series I hear talked about all that much these days despite its rather influential and interesting contributions to the genre of RPG in general. Now, bearing that in mind, Spoony would go on to review each and every entry in the Ultima series, in what are genuinely some of the most interesting videos he's ever made. Maybe part of that is that they remind me of a time back when I used to watch Angry Video Game Nerd and not really know about or be familiar with nearly any of the games he was talking about. But because of that, it felt like really learning about something new and interesting. And more than anything, their passion and anger comes across so much more real. You could tell some of the jokes and things Spoony complains about or talks about throughout this series retrospective are stuff that has been rattling around his brain for years at this point. It's pretty cool too, because I'm pretty sure Spoony was one of, if not the first YouTuber to really give this series the time of day and retrospective of this kind. And by the end of 2013, he even got to interview the game series creator, Lord British, which was pretty cool.
And we're here to talk about Shroud of the Avatar, his new game, and I'm here because they met their Kickstarter goal. I was met as one of the highest Kickstarter goals because I'm worth it.
Worth every penny.
In fact, we wouldn't be here if they hadn't put my name on the Kickstarter. You must admit this.
Well, it has to be true. I mean, as a fanboy myself of the Spoony experiment and all things Spoony, it was, we try to put at those high-level goals, the things that we're fans of ourselves, we know that our fans are fans of as well, and I gotta admit it, yes.
See, and it's only right that they involve me in this, because I'm the guy who by far knows way more. In this room, I'm the guy who knows way more about Ultima than anyone else. But so yeah, when it comes to this series, Richard, what made you want to start making good games again?
Oh yeah, well, it's been a while since I've made one of those good games, apparently.
Right.
And I thought if I want to continue to be successful in this business, a good game would be a better idea than a bad game.
However, the clear standout in this whole retrospective is when we get the hour-and-a-half-long review of Ultima 9, which Spoony himself notes is the real reason he started this whole retrospective, because he wanted you to understand the games he grew up with and have the proper context for why this game in particular was so fucking bad. And there is some pretty damn funny lines throughout this review, with the standout joke in my opinion actually being the betrayal counter that he has throughout the first part of the review, mostly because there's something so visceral, almost venomously personal about every flaw in the game, not just simply being a flaw, but an act of pure betrayal in his eyes.
No joke, this is the worst fucking game I ever played in my life. And I know how that sounds. I know I say that all the time, probably. And I know you could probably point to other games that are worse in individual respects, like Pumpkinhead or something like that. I've raged against them, but it's just everything. And I don't even know what to say. It's very easy to describe and very difficult at the same time. I guess the way I could put it is, I've never seen a worse story told more poorly in a video game. There's just so much more to it than that, and I don't even want to play it. I don't want to. I would seriously rather staple my dick to a burning log than even remember that this game exists. When I play, I suppose I have to though, right? I suppose I'm obligated, and I suppose it's the reason I started doing this whole thing. Because you needed context. You needed context. You needed to see all of the games leading up to this. You had to see how great they were to fully understand just what an unmitigated atrocity Ultima 9 turned out to be. Real issues can be fixed. Here?
It was the storyline. The complete betrayal of a fucking storyline. The biggest betrayal ever inflicted on a loyal fan base up until Spider-Man cut a deal with fucking Mephisto. It was such a big betrayal that everyone involved with the design of this fucking game belongs frozen to the waist on the ninth circle of hell, getting cornholed in the eye sockets by pineapple dick demons from now until the end of fucking time. This is the worst, most insulting game I ever played in my fucking life, and it can go right to hell along with them. We're about to jump balls deep into it, so get ready, motherfuckers, it's gonna get loud! And completely unaware that's even happened,
Betrayal!
But the guy talking to you talks like it just happened a few minutes ago, which may not seem like that big of a mistake to get all that worked up about, except for the fact that the guy making this mistake is the fucking Time Lord!
Betrayal!
The guard.
I don't think they exist.
What the fuck? Now what is this shit? Look, all my skills are at novice. Strength is weak, dex is clumsy, and intelligence is fuck you! Where'd all my shit go? The magic shit I got from Pagan. The obscene magical powers. At the end of Pagan you become the Titan of fucking Ether, the god of all magic, and now my intelligence is dim.
This game sucks!
What?
The Codex of Ultimate Wisdom?
The Avatar has to ask what the fucking codex. No!
That being said, the real reason I think this video is his magnum opus is for the various on-screen rants and the story that he weaves before us. That being of the memories he holds dear to him of him and his brother, and ultimately why this game makes him so mad.
Well, I don't have a very good memory. You know, I've heard people like can remember the names of their teachers from elementary school. I don't. You know, I'm bad with faces. I'm bad with names, really. And I don't even know how early most people have, you know, memories, but probably one of my earliest memories is around the age of, must have been 3 or 4. We just moved to Arizona, and my dad was an engineer, and we had this new thing. It was this monochrome computer, 5 1/4 inch floppies, and it was the craziest thing because it could do word processing and it could do spreadsheets. And my dad would work from home, which again was this new thing. You know, you didn't have to use a typewriter. So, but when he was at work, my older brother and I would play on it. And we only had one game. It's probably the first computer game I ever played. And it was Ultima 3. I didn't play the earlier ones until a lot later, but yeah, we played Ultima 3. And my brother would play it with me. He taught me how to play, and I was so young I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Like, I didn't know the story, and even if he told me, I wouldn't have understood. But like, you know, all I knew there was bad guys on the screen, and we made guys to go beat them up. You know, that was it. But he'd explain what's going on, and you know, eventually I kind of knew. You know, I knew it's very basic. I knew enough to he'd let me play it on my own. He'd let me play his characters on my own and let me level them up and, you know, just get gold because you needed gold. You know, get the exotic weapons and stuff like that. And he didn't get mad if I got his characters killed, and I did that a lot. And he put a lot of time. We all put a lot of time into this, but you know, I was 3 or 4. You know,
It's gonna happen. But we got so wiped out the first time we went into Castle Exodus by the floor. You know, there'd be dragons and demons in there, and they could do this thing that was, your character could be dead or incinerated. And if he was incinerated, you needed like the highest level magic to bring him back. You needed a great holy man. And but the thing that kicked our asses was the floor. We must have gotten wiped out like shit, like 6, 7, 8 times. And we played like we played everything. We played Ultima 4, and I was older, of course, and he helped me understand the story and how it was different and what I was doing. And I don't know if you believe, it's basically how I learned to read, was the Ultima games. You know, I wouldn't recommend it as a course, but that's just how it went. You know, I just read what was going on the screen a lot. It was very simple terminology and stuff like that. It was the first words I was really reading. And it got me interested in all sorts of stuff. You know, it kind of helped shape my interest today. It got me interested in sci-fi, fantasy. I wanted to read more about characters like this, what was going on. Got me interested in D&D. You know, I was reading Tolkien when other kids were struggling with the Hardy Boys. You know, I was reading D&D books at recess when other kids were playing around with Foursquare, and that got me in a lot of trouble. But my older brother and I, we must have played everything up to Ultima 6 while we were living under the same roof, and then he moved away to college. He moved away, but that was our thing when we were together, you know. He didn't. What I really appreciate about that was he didn't have to do that, you know. He was like, shit, he was like 10 years older than me. And, you know, nobody really likes their idiot younger brother, you know. Like, when you're like 8, 10 years older, then nobody likes, you know, I was an idiot. I was a 4-year-old kid, and just, I cried and screamed and was a fucking moron. But he did, you know. My sister didn't, but he did. And he'd play that game with me, because he was cool like that. And whenever I think of him, that's what I think of, and I miss that. You know, I miss fighting the floor in Ultima 3. Stupid! It's all been a complete fucking waste of time!
The genuine anger and pain and sadness that comes from that silence, and then sudden tossing of the games and stuff, it's just so real. In fact, it feels a little too real. Like that anger wasn't just about fucking Ultima anymore, but instead something far, far deeper. That was not acting. That was pure, raw emotion. And what comes after is a moment that I don't see enough people point out in the story of Spoony, when he's talking with the main villain of the Ultima series as like a kind of gag, and he reflects upon not only the game, but also his life, his career, his friendships with thatguywiththeglasses.com, and perhaps beyond, in what I think is probably the most revealing speech Spoony has ever given.
And that's it, isn't it? You know, that's life in a nutshell, right? There's nothing I can care about so much that I won't eventually see it turn to shit and betrayal. You could list them off. Ultima, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, fucking Spider-Man with One More Day, comic books in general, Final Fantasy, fuck my job, my fucking life. Just take it from me, alright? The most you people can hope to do is die before you can see everything that you take joy and comfort in rot into filth and leave a steaming, stinking hole in your soul that never fucking heals.
Good. Good. And now, at the end, do you understand?
Understand what?
Inevitability. You and I are one. We are connected. The only difference is that you are weak. You care. I will dominate because I don't care.
Fuck off. Yeah, okay, well, guess what? You can't fucking trick me. Oh, you like this? Yeah, this is new. I had this specially made. It's an anti-magic gun, and you'll never guess where I purchased it. I don't know if it'll work on your Blackgate, but I'm just dying to find out.
Then take your science weapon. Destroy the Blackgate. Destroy your only chance of escape from the lie of your existence. Run from your destiny. Sit here and talk to your people until they too abandon you. Then, when you're alone, you will never be able to escape yourself. How much longer, I wonder, until you'll finally be able to see the bars of your own cage?
I wasn't being serious when I said that.
No? Then stay here. Embrace madness and fiddle amidst the flames as your hatred engulfs this world. You said yourself that death was a kind of mercy for you and the rest of humanity. You can end their suffering, like many have tried before you.
Seeing this, knowing this, makes me feel like the story of Spoony and the tragedy that comes after this point makes a lot more sense. When he says that nothing he loves lasts for long before it turns to shit, and that one day, even his audience will turn on him, and perhaps he himself is admitting in that statement that one day he'll come to betray everyone too, and in turn become shit in their eyes. And so I suppose it's time we talk about the Spoony movie. By 2014, Spoony had a rather interesting conundrum to face with. You see, he had a Patreon by this point to help support his endeavors with his channel, and one of the stretch goals of the Patreon was if he ever got up to $5,000 a month coming in, he would start production on his very own Spoony movie. Now while this seems random, you gotta understand that by this point, Spoony has starred in 3 major Channel Awesome movie projects, and other creators like AVGN and eventually Linkara 2 would go on to try and make their own movie productions for their internet shows. And so I suppose Spoony saw it as something cool he might be able to do as well. But, truth be told, I don't think he ever expected to be getting to $5,000 a month. At least, not so fast from his Patreon. It's a testament to just how loved and adored he was, even after everything. Especially because I know content creators who are far larger channels than Spoony these days, who cannot even manage to get 1/5 of what Spoony was getting at this point. He has to have one of the rarest viewer to donator ratios of all time to be real. That aside, that now meant that he had to keep his promise of making a Spoony movie, which led him to making this video titled Spoony the Motion Picture, where he kinda reveals his thoughts, shock, awe, and above all else, the pressure he has on him now with this sudden news.
The Patreon goal where it was listed that I would start work on a movie, and I was just I was blown away by this. Was it like, you guys are the best fans in the world? Oh my god! It was just astonishing. Oh my god! And thank you so much. Oh my, wow! I can't even begin to. Well, I can begin to repay you and thank you properly, but wow, I don't know if I can ever finish it. But that's part of what I wanted to talk to you about was the plan, the current status of things, the plan is, and how I'm going to go about it. So, I guess we'll start with the movie in question, and what this means and does not mean. What this means is that I believe in there I said I would put a movie into pre-production and that I would make it a priority. This is all true. I am now making it a priority, and pre-production, however, means a lot of things. One, it means it may take a long time. In this case, a very long time. 2, this movie has not been written yet, obviously. And I also haven't decided what the movie will be about. I have 3 or 4 ideas that I'm kicking around. Very, very good ideas. But here's the interesting thing. None of them are what you would call Spoony movies. And I think even April was asking me, like, oh, people are gonna love seeing a Spoony movie. And I go, well, like what? Kind of like the AVGN movie where it's a movie where like Spoony goes out and does things, and I'm like, or like an origin story. And she's like, yeah, like an origin story. I'm like, well, you kind of know what the origin story is. it's basically me, you know? Like, the character is kind of an amped up version of me, so to speak, and but then we also have, like, you know, the meta plot of the reviews and stuff like that. Is it true? We kind of have this weird meta plot thing going on. So it might be worth exploring. I don't know yet. I didn't really envision like an in-character Spoony movie when I was thinking of a movie, and hopefully that wasn't misleading. Maybe it was, and I'm not ruling it out. I always pictured maybe doing a movie separate from the site. Maybe that was out of line. I don't think so though. I think maybe you guys would enjoy seeing something that was something that I wrote and produced and maybe appeared in. That would be something, you know, very, very, very different from the standard kind of game movie review, kind of my character type of thing. I don't think I necessarily need to be I'm not imitating the nerd, but, you know, kind of make a movie where it's my character. Especially since we're talking about, like, where in continuity this falls. I don't know. But it's one of the ideas that I might start kicking around.
You can hear the genuine excitement and unbearable panic in his voice throughout this video, and I think it's rather telling that the reality of the situation started to really hit him, that he wasn't really sure what a movie about Spoony would even be about, since the AVGN movie, and really most of the other reviewer movies and the like, were about characters that these guys played, and also were pretty fucking bad at that. But Spoony kind of realized that Spoony isn't really a character, it's just himself, and he never really had enough of a larger lore to his videos to do much with that either. Of course, this is exactly the type of thing the bro should have thought about before advertising it on his Patreon, but I can sympathize with the reality being that a Spoony movie feels like something that would be difficult to make, since it's kind of just a guy reviewing games and movies at the end of the day. But at the same time, he really should have thought about that beforehand. He does note that he has at least 3 movie ideas that he has in mind that are all his creative visions, but that they wouldn't be a Spoony movie, but a movie made by Spoony, which, to be fair, I think is probably the much better option. And since he noted before that he has movie ideas and story concepts from the start of his online career, that's really where his creative endeavors began. I think it would have been genuinely interesting to see him actually use that money to try to actually make some sort of low-budget film with what he has. But truth be told, he also just doesn't really seem to have that much of a plan, and was frankly overwhelmed by just the mere concept of doing it, it seemed. He does try to make some promises though that stuff is on the way. A movie of some sort will be made, even if it'll take a while. And all the other stuff that was promised via his Patreon, such as a DVD and the like, will eventually come out, and that he will focus all his time on actually creating this stuff rather than wasting it all on Twitter. He did not keep any of those promises, sadly. And really, to start, many fans were already upset with him that he not only didn't have plans to make a full-on Spoony movie, but that he seemed to not really have much of a real plan for anything at all. Many felt misled by the vagueness of his Patreon stretch goal, and it seemed as though Spoony's time and brain was stretched thin, and he kinda did that all to himself. Not to mention that his motivation seemed to be exponentially lower when his fandom, for the most part, seemed to reject the concept of Spoony making a movie that wasn't specifically about Spoony. Something that, as we know before, he was passionate about since, well, his start online, which probably had to fucking hurt on some level for him. Perhaps he was starting to feel a little bit trapped by his Spoony reputation and his Spoony character as a whole. And by 2015, there was still no real sign of progress on either his movie concept, with whatever it was planned to be, nor any of his other Patreon goals, such as the Spoony DVD and the Patreon exclusive streams and the like. This caused a lot of fans to become extremely angry, but mostly disappointed, and bit by bit his Patreon support started to dwindle away as more and more messages came in from his fans and supporters, most of which weren't even vitriolic or pissed, but instead many were apologetic and regretful that they were withdrawing their support from Spoony, someone who they enjoyed, and even in some ways were inspired by and looked up to. There were many who also would note, in fact it's a bit of a cliche, how Spoony and his videos had helped them through a particularly dark part of their life. I'm not really sure what about Spoony's videos seems to attract people specifically with this exact backstory, but it was pretty common. But at the end of the day, they still just couldn't justify continuing to support his Patreon without any real stuff that was promised coming their way. Some even noting how if he did start to make more content or tangible progress on his promises, that they would come back and begin donating again. But sadly, Spoony never did that. Instead, he went against his promises and would start actively using Twitter even more, and began spiraling all over again. He would sometimes post thousands of tweets a month, and he was so addicted to the platform he even made an account for his dog Oreo for him to react and interact with online, which is well, yeah, I suppose that one kind of speaks for itself. And that's what his supporters thought too. His supporters who, might I add, were literally his main financial support and means of paying the rent on his house, which means he had a lot of motivation to keep his promises, a lot of reasons to not slack and waste all this fucking time on twitter.com of all places. And yet, he just didn't. And as more and more people saw him acting like a fucking dumbass on Zitter, getting into random useless arguments with people on there, and pretending to be his dog for hours a day, hours that could be used making videos, working on his projects, trying to conceptualize the movie, etc. More and more people who once supported him had had enough. And I'm sure seeing these messages of disappointment, anger, and sadness only fed into his fragile mental state and sense of ego, and made him do the exact thing that was making people do this to begin with, creating quite the destructive loop of perpetual suffering and laziness. And as the years came and went, from 2015 to 2016, from 2016 to 2017, there was still no real sign of the movie, or even reviews at this point on his channel, with the only content Spoony was releasing at all during this time being his live streams he called Livewire, where he would stream video games with usually very little commentary, and, or even worse, if he did do commentary, it was usually aimed directly at his fans, dismissing them, arguing with them, or snapping at them, all while he at times played games so fucking badly that they've been compiled and put together in the same way people compile and put together Darkside Phil's streams, all of which made for some pretty infamous clips.
Don't tell me how to play. You know, now is not a good time to smartass me. Few times are, but now is really not a good one. Sending her your prayers. Fuck you. Fuck you for even suggesting something like that.
Hey, what was that? I saw someone.
Fuck you.
Not to mention some of the shit he was saying on Twitter, from going on about how he wanted to die, to basically tweeting about how much he hated Donald Trump near every single day, which regardless of your politics, certainly isn't exactly a productive activity. And at one point, he even had this entire bitch fit about Christmas specifically, which he details here, in what I can only call one of the most psychotic sounding stories relating to Christmas I've ever heard. Quote, I mean, who's offended by this, really? What Christian hears happy holidays and is like, the fuck is that supposed to mean? You're not the only assholes on this planet, you know. And this whole war on Christmas thing, I have no idea where this idea comes from. I have never, not once, seen a Hanukkah display for anything at a store, ever. My war on Christmas is a purely personal one that usually manifests in me physically assaulting any Christmas tree or decoration that sings as I walk past it. And yes, I have punched a Christmas tree. Security got involved. I have a great deal of rage. I also nearly destroyed an entire Dollar Tree store. Near the register, they had an entire box of some fucking singing snowman toys, and all of them were malfunctioning. April had to make me wait outside in the cold. Let this be an important lesson. Your health insurance doesn't give a piss whether or not I kill myself, or how many people I take down with me. Unquote. This caused some people to report him, by the way, since it kind of sounded like he was gonna, how do I put this? Randy Stare the Dollar Tree for daring to have Christmas tree and snowmen for Christmas time in the store. Yeah. All of this, as you might imagine, started to attract a new crowd of people to come and pay attention to him. That being trolls, and those who were looking to get a rise out of him. And, of course, those that just wanted to quietly watch the shit show as it was constantly happening. However, those that did try to mess with him directly usually would try to bait him into an argument to further bring his mood down lower and lower, since it really wasn't difficult to get a reaction out of him, to be honest, which would then cause him to spiral and say even more crazy shit on Twitter, and sometimes even during his live streams. And one surefire way to get under his skin, as you might imagine, based on that story he told during his Ultima review, was to insult his brother, and more specifically, bring up an incident involving him in which he had to shoot and kill someone. You see, Spoony's brother Miles, who had also appeared in some of Spoony's vlogs before, was a cop with the Mesa Police Department, eventually working his way up to the position of sheriff's deputy, and in 2017, some details from an event involving Miles from 2011 came to light. That being Miles' shooting and killing of an illegal immigrant named Felipe Ramirez Castellanos. Now mind you, Ramirez did shoot at the police, and with an AR-15 at that, and he had also jumped in his car and tried to mow Miles down in said car. So by the time that all was said and done, I'd say Miles had every right to defend himself and those around him. However, this was something else trolls could use to mess with Spoony, claiming that his brother was a cold-blooded killer, or that he was a racist for what he had done. And often in his live stream chats, there was hashtag One but not forgotten, 1 in a million, or once in a lifetime would be spammed pretty consistently until Spoony would have to stop what he was doing and either ban those people from doing that, and sadly be baited yet again into explain the story all over again, and why Miles was justified in what he did, since he really cares about his brother and didn't want people lying about him. Well, certainly noble, it unfortunately was just another means of getting him upset, depressed, or angry in general, and was the exact reaction that people wanted.
Hey, Luke, why don't you take care of your shit, and I'll take care of my shit? Because, here's the thing, I'm here, and you're you. Okay. I'll address the one but not forgotten thing. I feel like doing that now. For some reason, I don't know who, is bringing up this incident where my brother, who is a sheriff's deputy, was involved in a fatal shooting. The suspect in question, he was called out to deal with a domestic abuse call. The suspect, when Miles pulled up, the suspect emerged from the house, got into his car, and when ordered to stop, attempted to run Miles over with his car twice. When Miles drew his weapon and ordered him out of the car, he proceeded to lean out of the window, I shit you not, with an AK-47. Miles then shot him twice, killing him. The man also had a number of handguns in the passenger seat. This was as clean a shoot as you will ever find. He received a commendation for valor and was promoted. This was not an unprovoked shoot. It had nothing to do with racism. He tried to kill Miles 3 times before he opened fire. So, I guess the moral of the story is, don't open your fucking mouth about my family, implying some kind of racism, when you don't know shit about shit. And you keep bringing it up like it bothers me. It bothers me in the sense that you are so ill-informed that you're coming after me with it. What do I have to do with it? That's the only part that bothers me, is that you're talking to me about it. You're trying to insult my brother like your opinion matters for shit. You think Miles cares what your opinion is? He almost got shot. And you think he sweats you?
This trolling would also extend to his girlfriend April as well, with her often coming to Antwiler's defense over time, and at one point even making a Facebook post where she finally addresses multiple accusations that have been thrown at both her and him. Quote, "So fucking sick of crazy, unfounded, and evil rumors about Noah and me. No, he doesn't hit me. Christ's sakes, are you mad? He's got the arms of an 8-year-old girl with rickets. He couldn't hit a blow-up doll and make it hurt. Not to mention, he's not an evil asshole, and I'd leave anyone who even dared to hit me. No, he doesn't have a drinking problem. He doesn't drink. I drink more than he does, and I barely touch the stuff myself. No, he doesn't have a pill problem, unless you consider taking your psychiatric meds as the doctor has prescribed them as a problem. There'd only be a problem if he didn't take them. He's not cheating on me. I'm not cheating on him. Neither of us ever leaves the house, like ever. How will we even sneak out to cheat? I can't even drive. What the actual fuck, people? And finally, no, he didn't use the Patreon money to buy our house. He used a home loan, you know, from a fucking bank, like everyone else on Earth. The down payment came from his goddamn retirement fund. What? Do you think he made so much money on Patreon, which at the time we bought the house had only been for a couple months? That he just handed the realtor a suitcase full of cash while cackling and twirling his mustache, I presume? Jesus Herbert Christ. Rumor mongers are fucking stupid. Tired of this evil time-wasting smear campaign against someone who doesn't deserve it. If you hate his reviews, fine, but don't pretend you know anything about the person you've never met. And if a stranger on the internet claims intimate knowledge of our lives, why in the name of Thor's massive balls would you just believe them? They don't know a damn sight more than you do. Just stop, okay? Just stop. I know it feels fulfilling to hate someone, but it only diminishes you as a person. Hate is like taking a poison and expecting the other person to die. It's a foolish waste of time. In the long run, it only ever says anything about the hater, not the one they hate. And it says that haters suck, unquote. However, as the bills came in, the Patreon money dried up, and it seemed all there really was in the Spoony household was misery and anger. Things would only manage to get worse, as by 2019, April would end up leaving Spoony, leaving him at his house all alone. Quote, "I miss hearing April's voice. I miss the sound of her playing fetch with Oreo in the house and teaching her how to do a happy dance for Snackos. It's all quiet here now," unquote. We, yet again, don't really know the details about this breakup either, and really it's no one's place to pry. But I'd have to imagine all the bills, stress, April probably being the main breadwinner at some point, and Spoony's constant spiral of sadness must have finally reached a sort of breaking point eventually. And speaking of that, Spoony was only getting worse. His zitter was now filled with even more dark thoughts, and what I can only describe as sort of a pure, ugly kind of pain. screen, the sort that you really should not be sharing with the internet and a bunch of strangers who at this point were simply relishing in his misery. Quote, "I'm out of money, bills are pouring in, no idea how I'll keep from losing the house and everything else. I shouldn't talk anymore about this stuff. Just whatever happens. If you ever cared about me, don't pray. Don't you dare. Anyway, I should livestream. If I cannot have a panic attack. I nearly went to pieces on livestream. I don't think I can do this anymore. I can't bear feeling this way anymore. I can't do this. And if I can't make videos like I used to, I'm not good for anything. I have no purpose. Can't get that back. I'm broke, man. I'm out of money. I'm going to lose the house and everything else. It's too late for all that." Spoony's Twitter got to be so infamous for being this way that someone set up a sad Spoony tweet generator on GitHub, which just generates sad Spoony tweets that are, well, nearly impossible to tell apart from the real thing. And then, things just got worse. Once April left him, Spoony would not be able to afford the bills for the house anymore. His time was up, and so his house would be foreclosed and short-sold by the bank, meaning that it was sold at a loss, and that it was sold for significantly less than Spoony's remaining mortgage. Thus, Noah would end up returning to Mesa, Arizona, but not before he would end up getting into a fucking car crash.
How you doing? Are you injured at all?
I had the wind knocked out of me, but I think I'm okay.
Okay. You had airbag deployment?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have your driver's license and insurance?
Yes. Give me a second.
110, I'm going to need two non-preference tows. Copy 228s.
Copy 228s. I had the green light. He turned right in front of me. I tried to swerve to the left. He kept coming. I hit him in the front passenger side, and that's it.
I got two witnesses that said you ran the red light. Besides, not even these guys.
I don't know to tell you it's not true. I had the green light.
Okay. One of them has a dash cam, so.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to write you a ticket for disobeying the traffic light.
Did you see the dash cam?
Huh?
Did you see the dash cam?
I'm still going to have to write it.
Okay.
So, all right, let these guys take care of you, okay?
Now, despite what Spoony says to the officers in the full video, this crash happened because he ran a red light, which made his financial situation even worse, because now he had to buy a new car so he could get back to Arizona. But also, he would have to use more money from all the medical bills that was racking up from the injuries that he received from this crash. And apparently, according to him, in one of his live streams, he had actually had several broken ribs from this crash. And just as they were supposed to start healing, he got fucking bronchitis, which means he would be coughing and his throat would feel like it was on fire, causing more pressure on his broken ribs. It truly was like life was continuing to shit on Spoony over and over again. Now, truth be told, the crash was his fault, as was being lazy and not making new videos and stuff to earn money for, well, his bills. But sometimes it really did feel like with every bad choice, there was several forms of bad luck, as if the universe itself was punishing him for punishing himself. And after all this, life would stab Spoony in the ass one more time, as in 2021, Spoony's beloved dog Oreo also passed away. And with his sweet dog now gone, his car totaled, his house foreclosed, his girlfriend gone, his promises to his fans unfulfilled, his fans and their support they gave him gone, his mental state all but withered away, his dreams, ambitions, everything he built up over the last several years, torn asunder by his own actions or inactions. Spoony Noah Antwiler had nearly nothing left now, and after Oreo's passing, it seemed as though Spoony had sort of checked out. He effectively vanished from YouTube, no longer even doing his low-effort live streams at this point. Twitter, however, continued to be his home online, his journal for his dark, vulnerable, angry emotions, and sometimes nerdy, since he would also post comic book quotes and shit for hours on end between his rants. But it was above all else close and extremely uncomfortable look into Noah's mind. He'd also very often talk about his health, both mental and physical, as it seemed like he was constantly getting sick and having to go in and out of the doctor nearly every month, it seemed like. At one point, Lord British, the man behind the Ultima series, someone Spoony looked up to, even contacted him and tried to cheer him up, noting, quote, "Stop that. Lord British demands you listen. Do not despair. You will find your path. It may not be perfect, none are, but it will be enough. Take hope, not in some mystical solution, but in knowing it can be done, that you can do it, will do it. Nothing can be done anymore. All that could be done has been done. No one can help me now. There is nothing I can do anymore. I have no money, no house, no April, no Dremel, no friends. All is lost. You wouldn't understand. You are wrong. There is much about your current circumstances I do not know and likely cannot truly relate. Let's start with no friends. You know, I am a friend. I know others here are too. I believe you when you say it's bleak and you're blue, but you can make it better," unquote. Apparently, this was not the only time Richard Harriott had tried to reach out to Spoony, but it seems not even his creative heroes could help him now. And not to sound morbid or make light of the issue, but there was a time there where it felt like Noah was on the brink of doing something truly drastic, as it seemed that there was truly nothing left to burn down. Now, after all this, where do things stand more recently? Well, in 2023, Spoony actually appeared on a podcast hosted by Curtis Craig, who was the guy who played the main role in the FMV game Phasmagoria 2, which was one of the first and most popular games Spoony ever covered. And well, I suppose I'll show you a couple clips from it now.
Noah Antwiler.
Mr. Stetler.
We meet at last.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Hey, honestly, I'm just glad you're not suing me, or at least not yet.
Let's see how today goes. Exactly. I like Bard to the Bone. Are you a fan of? Is this a Shakespeare thing?
No. It's a reference to the Spoony Bard thing.
You're gonna have to catch me up on a lot of things that I don't know.
The Spoony thing is a reference to a video game called Final Fantasy.
Okay.
And it's a reference to what's kind of considered to be a poorly translated line, where one character calls another a spoony bard.
A spoony bard.
And so what's actually interesting is it's actually a very good translation, but nobody knows what spoony means. So I kind of took that and I rolled with it because I wanted to, I was naming a Dungeons and Dragons character, and I wanted to call him something that nobody knew the meanings of the word. So like Sir Lancelot the Brave.
Right.
The Pure. I wanted to be Sir Tandem the something. Something like some ostentatious word that nobody knew what it meant. So I was like, the Spoony. What does that mean? So, and I was like, oh well, it's Elvish. Don't worry about it. And
I love it. Did you ever dig into what it could have meant in those under those circumstances?
It does. What it means is foolishly sentimental or romantic. So actually, in context, it's a brilliant translation because that's actually literally what he's calling him, but in just one word.
Oh, that's great.
So I actually want to find the person who localized the game from Japan, because that translation is amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can go with this, and I'm curious where you're at with your career right now and what your goal is to kind of get back into the swing of things.
Things got bad for me for a while. It's my goal of ultimately to start making reviews again.
Okay.
It's been a long way trying to climb my way back to where I can even appear on camera again. And it's hard to explain why for a lot of reasons, but I'm getting there. And I think that's the important thing, is I'm making progress. And I think that's actually why I wanted to thank you for having me on here, because this is a big step for me. I haven't even appeared on camera in a long time. So just knowing that there's people out there who still want to see, hear from me and see what I have to say, and people that are still engaged with my content after 12 years, you said?
Yeah.
I think that's actually very helpful for me, and it's going to bring me back. It's going to help bring me back a lot sooner. So, but yeah, that's my ultimate goal, is to just be in a position again where I can keep doing what I love doing, and that's just having fun with you guys. Making people laugh. because that's what it's always been about.
Right. Is there a way that you can produce these? I mean, so much has changed since we were first doing this. Are you interested in, when I say go back to, you're saying go back to the basics, but like even the basics can be more highly produced if that's something you're interested in pursuing.
I will admit that the game has changed, so to speak, in terms of people producing content on YouTube a lot since the stuff I last produced. Just in terms of like sponsored reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's something that wasn't done back when I started out. You know, the ways and means people make money off these type of things. You know, I think a question I need to answer for myself when I start doing doing projects again is, what do I expect to get out of this stuff? Is it like, do I plan to make money doing this anymore? That's a big question that needs to be answered, you know?
Yeah.
What do I realistically expect to get out of this? And I think my answer to that is, I don't want to have any expectations about what I want to get out of things. Like I don't, if I go into this wanting to make money, if I go into this wanting to just monetize, this becomes something that I don't, it's not creatively stimulating for me. I want to make something that makes people laugh.
Right.
And I think as long as I keep that in the forefront, good things will follow from that.
Needless to say, Spoony, after having been gone from all forms of content creation for some time now, it actually seemed to be doing a little bit better, and even remarked how he wants to get back into content creation eventually. Now since then, Spoony live streamed some more, and had re-uploaded several of his older reviews, since many of them had been taken down from YouTube, as I noted before, with some slight edits here and there. And he has also appeared on Curtis's podcast quite a few more times as of very recently. But he still hasn't made any new game review videos or serious piece of content since this. But maybe that's okay. I'm not sure if anyone else shares this opinion at this point, but I don't think it's a terrible sin if Spoony never makes a video again. I know there are many who want him to, many who would love to see his work and have things be like the good old days, but maybe the good old days are just that, and to want them back is simply not facing the reality of the situation. There are also those that will never forgive him, and will continue to mock and attack him no matter what he does or produces. Some for good reason, like those who donated to his Patreon and got nothing in return, and others just because they like kicking a guy when he's down. And regardless of where it's coming from, I'm not so sure Spoony, Noah, is really built for that. I don't think he ever actually was. It's the most consistent part of this whole story. Noah is a very emotional person. When he loves and cares for people, he puts his all into it, and when they leave him, it hurts. And he has wounds that never seem to fully heal. Noah is a very clearly passionate person who's never afraid to be himself, even if that meant destroying everything he had built. Noah's tale feels like a lesson for those who wish to become internet famous. That being, if you can't handle people criticizing you, or at times people kicking you while you're down, if you can't ignore that, move beyond that, and focus on your art, not the audience, then I don't think it's a good idea for you to get into anything related to being online famous, YouTube, or anything else regardless. Because it'll simply become an abusive relationship eventually, and may even turn you into a twisted, deformed version of yourself, broken beyond repair, wondering where it all went wrong. If Spoony were to come back and make a grand return with some banger videos, and hell, even if he were to theoretically come out with a fucking movie, really come in swinging, would that all be cool? Yeah, it would be. I personally would love that. But sometimes you gotta let go of the past and move on. Noah seems to be a fair bit better since moving away from content creation. And while I do think him posting on Twitter or fucking Blue Sky now, I guess, is a complete waste of his time and potential, what more is there really to say? He's clearly not gonna stop using it anytime soon, though at the very least he does seem to use it far less these days, so I can only hope that maybe Noah is enjoying real life a bit more. And now we get to the part of the video where I think I differ on the story of Spoony away from others as well. In many videos and articles and opinion pieces I've seen on Spoony, The overall tone seems to be of anger and disappointment, and I can understand both of those feelings. But personally, I've gotta be real, looking at the story of Spoony really doesn't make me angry or disappointed. I genuinely just kind of see it as tragic. To me, I see the story of Spoony as someone who is very creative and is a very funny person, who put too much pressure on himself, promised far too much than he was capable of delivering, and who slowly self-destructed as he struggled with physical and mental health issues more and more, eventually pushing everyone away and isolating himself to his worst thoughts. I guess the worst thing that he's done, in my opinion, is not deliver on something to all those who donated to him all those years ago. He did promise a movie, and he never really ended up making anything. If anything, everyone getting to that donation goal seemed to only completely stump him in place. But I'd be lying if I said I really cared all that much about the movie at all. That shit was destined to be ass, I'm sorry. The most interesting thing that he put forth on the table was making his own movie that didn't really have anything to do with the Spoony show. But people rejected that and felt as though they were being scammed if he didn't do the Spoony movie, which again, I know is what he promised, and I understand if this is something that you see as truly unforgivable from Spoony. But personally, I never donated myself, and I don't really care about whatever the Spoony movie was going to end up being. I would have vastly preferred if he just kept making videos instead. Again, just gotta be real. I know personally when I donate to someone's Patreon, it's because I enjoy their work, their art, their writing, their videos, etc. And if they're not making content anymore, then I guess I would just stop donating. Which is why I think it's fair to anyone who stopped donating when he stopped making videos. Or if you did donate for the movie and you realized it wasn't going to happen, you stopped donating for that reason. That being said, anyone who kept donating, even though it was very clear he wasn't making anything at that point, I do think some of the responsibility does need to fall onto you for handling your money poorly. But nonetheless, on that front, I do think Spoony really fucked up. Alongside the joke that he made on Twitter about Jesu Otaku, I do think at the end of the day, regardless of the intentions, it was just inappropriate and unnecessary. But as for everything else, from the betrayal incident that lordkat cried and bitched about for hours, to his meltdowns over breakups, or defending people that he really cares about, to struggling with mental health and what have you, I really don't think any of that harmed anyone but himself. And on those fronts, I don't see him as a truly bad person for any of that. I do think that Noah is someone who is too often weak when he needs to be strong though. Someone who shares too much when he should be sharing far less. And someone who should have just focused on creating good stuff rather than promising far more than he could have ever realistically delivered. But on the whole, the way people talk about Noah would make you think that he's done something truly evil and unforgivable. And I'm sorry, I just don't see that. At the worst, I'd say maybe he's a bit pathetic because he allowed his emotions and inner conflicts and laziness take over and lose literally everything that he holds dear because of it. But does that make him evil? I certainly wouldn't say so. I mean, what it really comes down to is bro stopped making videos because he was depressed and actively spiraling for various reasons, while hordes of people were mocking him and trying to make him spiral even faster on a daily basis. Is it really any surprise he stepped away from all of that? And is it any surprise that he's doing better now that he's gotten away from it all? I guess what I'm saying is, despite his many flaws and issues, I will defend Spoony on some level, because after everything is said and done, if he comes back or not, I personally feel that the hatred for Spoony is just a little too overblown. You know, it struck me when Noah told his story of his older brother playing Ultima 3 and 4 and the like with him, and how sad, choked up he seemed when he mentioned the fact that his brother eventually moved away, and how this series falling apart felt like a betrayal because it meant so much more to him than just simply games, because he cherishes those memories. And while there is certainly nothing wrong with that, I can't help but wonder if sometimes maybe we all look at memories in the past to our own detriment far too often, wishing things were different, that they were just how they used to be, maybe wishing that we had done things differently or things had gone a different way. I think it stops us from living in the present so very often, and so maybe in the end Noah's story is also one of betrayal, a man who betrayed his dreams, his fans, but most of all himself, because he couldn't find the strength to keep trying, to let go of the past and what he had done and what others had done, and move forward in creating something new. But that's okay. After all, Noah already made a ton of great videos, and inspired so many people into getting into making their own videos and content themselves. He got many people into D&D, and also into Ultima, and even some of the more obscure stuff that he was into in the past. But eventually, he would run out of things that were from his past, and again, I think that's okay. Maybe that was enough, more than enough. So even if he never comes back fully, I think Noah has accomplished more than he gives himself credit for, all over the span of just a few years at that. I wish him the best, and I look forward to talking about him more as his roles come up in the eventual Channel Awesome films as we cover them. And if he ever does come back, I hope that he just drops some cool stuff and leaves it at that. Do it on his own time, and not give in to those voices in his head to self-destruct again. But if not, then I'll enjoy all the stuff that he's already made. Noah is a complicated figure. Sometimes, frankly, he's a pretty damn shitty person, a spiteful person, a weird fucking guy who, at the end of the day, kinda scammed a bunch of people out of their money via Patreon out of just sheer laziness. And that is not something to be dusted under the rug. But at the same time, he can also be a pretty funny and endearing guy. And he's also someone who gave the gift of laughter and inspiration to thousands, perhaps millions of people. And so, at the end of it all, I suppose he really was a spoony bard.